Activate the panel. Madam Griffin.
Monsieur le Senator Gorst. Monsieur le Senator Farnham.
Présent.
Madame le Senator Ferguson.
Présente.
Monsieur le Senator Lafondre. Madame le Senator Valois. Madame le Senator Moore.
Present.
Monsieur le Senator Pallett.
Non.
Monsieur le Senator Mezek. Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Grouville. Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité.
State business
Monsieur le,
is in the Pope.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Ouen. Madame le Connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Madame le Député Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Southern. Madame le Député de Grouville.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Lewis.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Tadier. Monsieur le Député Higgins.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Masson. Madame le Député Pinel.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Martin. Monsieur le Député de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Madame le Député Dublé.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Labbé.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Wickenden. Monsieur le Député de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Truscott.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Young. Monsieur le Député Ash.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Morel.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Guida.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Pierre. Monsieur le Député de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le Député Lehegara.
Présente.
Monsieur le Député Ayer.
Présent.
Madame le Député Perchard.
Présent.
Monsieur le Député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le Député Alves. Monsieur le Député Pamplin.
Présent.
Madame le Député Gardner.
Présente.
Monsieur Doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et les puissances de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir le cœur les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute leur délibération est toute combinée de ta bénédiction. Réussissons bien à tout soulagement du peuple, qu'il de plus de commettre à leur soin. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné à t'invoquer en disant: Notre Père, qui es aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite sur la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous amène pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Monsieur le Sénateur Gorst.
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Lafondre.
Excusez.
Madame le Sénateur Valois. Vous jurez que Madame le Sénateur Valois est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas résister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le Sénateur Pallett.
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité.
Well, I think the Deputy of Trinity announced prematurely that he was absent on state business.
Yes, sorry about that. Thank you.
Monsieur le Deputy Southern.
Therefore,
Monsieur le Deputy Masson.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Monsieur le Deputy Masson est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le Deputy Wickenden.
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy de Saint-Pierre.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Monsieur le Deputy de Saint-Pierre est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Madame le Deputy Alves.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Madame le Deputy Alves est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Non, Monsieur le Président.
les États sont constitués.
Sir, if I may just advise the Assembly that due to a funeral that I would like to attend, I'll be leaving the Assembly at about midday.
Thank you very much.
So I feel I should, similar, I have a hospital appointment at 11:30, so I will have to leave at 11:30. I'll be back for the afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you. So we return to the debate on the island plan. 90th amendment was proposed last night by the Minister for the Environment, and Deputy Tadier, I think, asked a question of the Attorney General. Mr. Attorney, are you able to give your answer to that question?
Yes, sir, I am. Deputy Tadier asked a question that if someone owned a field, a privately owned a field, was aggrieved by a decision of the Assembly to designate that field for affordable homes under the island plan, would that be subject to some form of appeal or judicial review? And so my answer to that question is that there are two potential remedies to that situation. The first would be an application for judicial review to the Royal Court, and it could be put on the basis that that the decision of the States Assembly was incompatible with a convention right. In this case, it would be likely to be Article 1, Protocol 1, which is to do with the protection of property. So that's the first potential remedy. The second one would be the person could apply for planning permission to develop the field for not affordable housing, but normal private ownership or unaffordable housing, and then appeal the refusal, any refusal, a decision not to grant planning permission for private unaffordable housing in the usual way to an inspector and then to the Royal Court on a point of law. So those are the two potential remedies. In relation to the prospects of success of certainly the first remedy, probably the second, I think the prospects of success would be extremely low. The Assembly's task in passing the island plan is to decide on how best to use the island's resources in accordance with its statutory duties under the Planning and Building Law of 2002. And indeed, Article 4, Paragraph 4 of the 2002 law expressly provides that land can be used for persons who would otherwise have financial difficulties renting or acquiring residential accommodation in the general market, or residential accommodation prevailing in Jersey. So that is one of the express duties or purposes of the island plan. So in my view, so it would be extremely difficult to bring a judicial review on the basis that the Assembly had designated a site for affordable housing in accordance with that provision. A further difficulty is the advice that I gave to a question earlier in the week. I'm afraid I can't remember which deputy or states member asked me the question about whether there was an infringement of Article 1, Protocol 1, and my answer was no. And so, for all the reasons that I gave in relation to that answer, those difficulties would also be faced by the sort of claim that Deputy Taddy had suggested in his question, and the fact that in terms of a designation of say 15% of properties on states-owned land was be used for affordable housing, whereas a particular field had been designated entirely for affordable housing, would not, in my view, raise the prospects of success of that sort of challenge, because all sorts of considerations have to be applied by the States Assembly in relation to the use of land. And the fact that land is government owned or it may be in private ownership, that is only one of the factors that is taken into account in deciding on the best use of land. So I hope that answers Deputy Tadier's question. Thank you. So if I might also add, unfortunately I have to be called away at 10 o'clock for an urgent separate meeting. So if there are further questions, it might be wise to ask me now. I anticipate the meeting will be very brief, and my assistant will continue to listen to the debate, so if there are questions then I can pick them up afterwards. But I apologise to the Assembly, but I will briefly have to be away for a few minutes at 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Well, if there are no questions, Deputy Young?
I think that's a very helpful answer, as the Attorney Generals always are. But from my point of view, I know that on the approach of the debate, there's been a lot of comments in the media about a degree of public awareness.
Sorry, Deputy, can I just check this is a question for the Attorney General? Because you have spoken. Yeah.
Yes, okay. It is. And the question is that do I interpret the answer correct, that the states is paramount in these decisions, and therefore it's extremely unlikely that any judicial review brought for whatever reason, either for or against a zoning, could be likely to be subject to such. So I just would like to just have a little bit of clarification of that, please.
Mr. Attorney?
So yes, the states is the island's legislature, and clearly a great deal of weight will be placed on the fact that it is a legislature. In terms of the island plan, whilst it's not entirely free from argument or doubt, in my view, it would be considered as subordinate legislation in accordance with a broad definition of subordinate legislation, which is in Article 1 of the Human Rights Law. And so there is an express right, obligation in Article 7.4 of the Human Rights Law, which provides that it's unlawful for the States Assembly to make subordinate legislation which is incompatible with a convention right. So that provision might be used to mount a challenge to the island plan, or a particular part of the island plan, on the basis that it would be claimed that it is incompatible with a convention right. But as I've said, it would be subject to a huge number of difficulties in bringing that claim, because, as I said in my previous answer, there are express provisions in primary legislation which provide for designating land for persons who would have financial difficulties in renting or buying property in Jersey. So by designating land for affordable housing, the States Assembly is acting entirely in accordance with that provision, and in making decisions about which land is to be used for affordable housing, there are a huge number of considerations which have to be taken into account, which is why the States Assembly is tasked with those decisions. And it is why there is the extremely detailed and thorough process that is followed in relation to the development of the island plan, which is set out in the projet to this proposition, and which members will be familiar with. And I hope that assists the Minister.
Thank you, sir.
There's a question from the Deputy of Trinity. Deputy.
Yes, sir, thank you. I've spent the whole of my life discussing affordable housing. I'm just concerned is that do we have a definition of affordable housing? And I will give the example that I spent, as I said, most of my life dealing with affordable housing since 1969. Affordable housing in the UK was different in different parts of the UK. Are we saying that the land purchased for affordable housing from private individuals is going to be at the same price, whether the land is in St. Juan's, Trinity, or whatever? I'm not clear what the definition of affordable housing is. Go back to 1946 after the war. Dare I say, the word affordable housing came out because people were coming back from the war and they were trying to find a way of defining it. Here we are in 2022. I still don't have a definition of what is affordable housing.
So,
and if we're going to go through the debate...
Deputy, can I just interrupt you there?
Yeah.
This is moving into a speech, I feel. I think there's a question there for the Attorney General around whether in law there is a definition of affordable housing,
Right.
which he can answer. And then if you wish to reflect on that and contribute to the debate, that would be the best thing to do. Mr. Attorney.
So the affordable housing is not defined in the 2002 law, and I'm not immediately aware of a definition elsewhere.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions for the Attorney General, the amendment has been seconded, and does any member wish to speak on the amendment? Deputy of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as a member of St Martin's Housing Association, as an Economic Scrutiny Panel member, Environment Scrutiny Panel member, as a member of the Planning Committee, and as an ex-Planning Minister, the Island Plan is of great interest to me. And I'm trying not to speak for long when I do speak, but I guess I'm speaking more often than I might in other types of debates. But I don't know if it's something I said, but every day I'm turning up and there's less and less people sitting around me. At the rate I'm going, tomorrow the Minister himself probably won't be here, and this debate will come to a very short conclusion. But I jest, sir, and it's interesting that there aren't very many of us here, but we've got to this 32nd item, and it's possibly one of those that's taking us into the more serious, if it is possible, part of this whole debate, because we're getting down to the really tricky stuff of selecting housing sites. And this amendment, there's quite a few numbers in here, but of course it's the smallest number of those A, B and C that's the most important one, that number of 600. And I just want to say to members, which I'm sure we're going to approve this, and we're not going to sort of vote against it, but in approving this target of 600, we then must do our level best to try to get to that number. Planning decisions are always a balance, and on one hand, we have to balance the need and requirement of so many people on this island to have an affordable home, or to have a home to retire into, to have a family home for the rest of your life. But on the other side, we've got to try to balance the needs of the environment and green fields, keeping Jersey beautiful. So I just want to say to members, sir, we've really got to do our best on both counts here. We've got to try to find these sites, but we've got to try to do that in the most sensitive possible way and protect the beauty of our island. Thank you, sir.
Does any other member wish to speak on the amendments? Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Just as I did that, I closed the amendment, so if you could just be 1 second so I can open it again. So my concern here is, I know this, I accept for the Minister, this is perhaps an impossible task. This is what we've been given here is a number of homes to be built. And I want to make the point that the word homes being used is welcomed. We're finally talking about homes and not units and properties and those. And I think, but the issue is, and I'll raise this now, I think actually deep down we're still talking about properties and units rather than homes people need to live as a basic right. And it's almost impossible to come up with that number of homes before we've debated where they will be. And I accept that because the planners have given a view of what is needed. We are now going to talk about a number of different fields, and there will be individual interests and interests with the election coming. Let's be honest about it for some, and we're going to have to come up with a decision. However, the real issue for me is that the principle, one of the principles that we've got wrong is entirely around affordable housing. First of all, I think the definition of affordable housing is a movable feast. There seem to be so many projects, and we've had the housing minister, the current housing minister, talking about all of these different projects which are quite mystical in some ways, of part share. I mean, if you talk to the average person trying to find somewhere to live, it's something to negotiate their way through. So we have a problem with the definition of affordable homes. But we also have a big problem, a huge problem for me, which is Part C, which says new homes should be substituted with words up to 600 affordable homes. I do not believe that on state-owned property we should be building anything other than affordable homes. State-owned property is exactly that. It is owned by the people of Jersey. But we are willing in this assembly to say it's okay, build something that the people of Jersey cannot afford to live in. And that to me is an utter disgrace. It is the wrong thing to do, sir. It is the wrong principle. And if there's one thing that the Bridging Island Plan needs to have, it is clear principles as to what we're going to be doing. And the principle, therefore, is wrong. And actually, the more I'm talking myself out of supporting this, because it is fundamentally wrong. The issue of affordable housing in this is a token gesture, just like all of these numbers will be. And I go back to what I started with, and I feel, to some extent, for the Minister, because it is nigh on impossible to put these numbers together before we would agree where they're going to be built. However, the principle of affordable housing on state's land is something that we can talk about. And I'll take that a step further. Perhaps on privately owned land, on an island where we have a housing crisis, not a problem, not an issue, and housing crisis, the government should be leading the way in housing and saying that we need to build affordable housing for people first and foremost. So that's what will be given the priority for planning permission, affordable homes for the next generation coming through. Otherwise, we will face a population crisis that is very different from what we perceive that we have at the moment. It will be a demographic crisis where younger people, and when I say younger, I'm going to include myself in that, okay? There's no need to laugh at that, I will include myself in that generationally, people will move away because, one, you cannot afford to live here, and your children will not be able to afford to live here. And when you want to see your children, you will move away too. And we will have that drop in population that many, many people want, but it means we won't have a society that works. And that starts with the notion of affordable homes. Homes, not properties, not units. And I think, if anything, the one big step forward is the use of the word homes in this document. So there is a real issue with this in Part C for me, and if we take it separately, I don't know how that would work, and I understand where we are. I also mentioned a couple of other things. We don't have the census data. We don't know where we are with empty properties. And I use that word properties because they're not being used for homes. We don't know where we are with them. And in addition to that, we have no idea of the demographic at the moment that we actually have and what the need will be. And we go back to, sorry, so I'm going to go through this now because there's a point to do it. I go back to what I said about the use of units. What we seem to have is the developers are king. And what they are developing is spreadsheet units of one bedrooms, and in town in particular, and St Helier is facing the brunt of this, which are not suitable for the demographic that we have because we don't even know what the demographic is. And so until we have that, and we have absolutely nothing in place in terms of an empty property tax, an empty property charge to encourage places back onto either rental or for sale, so that homes that are or could be available are not being made available because there is absolutely no incentive to do that. And these numbers, sir, and again I might be slightly off track here in terms of my criticism, but we can put as many numbers in here as we want. They might be right, they might be wrong, but until we address the issues of the way that we will use states' land, until we address the issues of what drivers we will put in place for development of homes for people, and until we put some form of control over developers, rather than these huge schemes that we have no control over and no investment in, then, sir, you can put whatever numbers you want here. It will not address the issues that we face. And this Bridging Island Plan is here to address the issues that we face. So, sir, I don't know about voting for this. I don't know what the consequences are if we don't vote for it. But all I can say is there's huge inadequacies built in from the very fundamental principles on housing that we've had on this island for far too long, and from this government and from previous governments. And we certainly need change, and it's time for that change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move on, I noticed that Deputy Southern's on default. If somebody could deal with that.
Can I raise the depot on Deputy Southern, please?
Depot raised and Deputy Southern. Thank you very much. Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. I'm really pleased to follow Deputy Ward, who was absolutely spot on in everything he said there. And in amongst the confusion we had last night in dealing with this, we were, I think, a bit too polite and avoided calling it what it is. And it is a complete and absolute mess that we have before us to vote now. It is a mess in its own right, but it's also a mess to be dealt with now at this point in this debate when we're about to embark on all of the other amendments on different housing sites. So the numbers that are actually in here may turn out to be purely theoretical and not actually based on the numbers for different sites that will end up in the plan itself. But sir, it's still a mess, even whatever the outcome is for the other amendments, because of the contents of this chart. Now, Deputy Ward commended the progress that there has been in moving from referring to properties to homes, and he's right to commend that. But let's take a closer look, sir. It refers to affordable homes and open market homes, which we should be clear is a euphemism for unaffordable homes. That's what it means if they don't fall into the affordable category. And look what it is that we're seeking to pledge to deliver for the island. On government-owned sites in town, we're seeking to deliver 150 unaffordable homes on land we own. That is a disgrace. That number in that chart should be 0. We should only be building homes on the land we own that actually match the profile of needs that there is out in the community. So 425 affordable, 150 unaffordable on government-owned sites in town. But let's look at the private sites in town. 600 for unaffordable. How many for affordable? 0. Not one. On those private sites, we won't be asking private developers to at least make a token gesture to our affordable housing contribution, to say that if you are going to take these sites and make lots of money out of them, which is absolutely fine, but in the midst of a housing crisis, they should be required to contribute at least a proportion. That is commonplace in many other jurisdictions as a condition for getting planning permission. The Minister says that he'll be supporting an amendment to this plan to require an affordable housing contribution from the private sector, but it's not in this chart. So this chart matters nothing. It may as well go in the bin, seeing as it has no resemblance to what else is in the plan. And look as well at the windfall outside of town, 500 for unaffordable, 0 for affordable, and we see greater and greater pressure for more affordable homes compared to the original version of this chart for rezoning in rural extension sites, losing more of our countryside because we're not using our brownfield sites and urban sites effectively, because instead, rather than building homes that match the profile of need that we actually need, we're building homes for luxury investment apartments, which is seriously letting this island down, and it is leading to what Deputy Ward was talking about people thinking about leaving the island, people actually leaving the island. And I say to the Minister for Environment that my email inbox, my Facebook message requests, and all the rest of it is absolutely inundated from young people as young as their late teens and early 30s, people who have aspirations and dreams, people who haven't started a family yet, people who are looking to start a family, who are looking to leave the island because they've simply given up hope that they will ever be in a position to own their own home. In recent weeks, my best friend, for example, has said that he'll be leaving the island, and that is because he knows that he will never be able to own a home here because the government simply doesn't care about people like him. And he hasn't seen this chart, but if I showed him, he'd say, well, that's typical. I can see why now. So, sir, I don't know what to do when it comes to how to vote on this. I may as well go and sit in the coffee room and do nothing, since it will have no impact whatsoever for this island, because these numbers are utterly meaningless. And even in this, can you call it an improved version of the chart, it's still completely inadequate and will not deliver on the housing supply that we need for the island. And further to that, sir, I would say that the numbers that the government has used to determine what projections for housing types that it will seek to approve in this plan, I think they've taken a flawed reading of the Objective Assessment of Housing Needs report, which came out a few years ago. It was published by myself when I was Housing Minister, and that gave a breakdown under different population growth scenarios of what sorts of homes we'd need. But it said in it that the numbers it was providing would change if circumstances on the island changed. Like, for example, widening the criteria for the housing gateway. The projections they came up with were based on the old criteria, and we know the criteria are changing, and they're changing because there are people out there who are so clearly in desperate need that they ought to be supported in social housing, or those first-time buyers who are constantly being priced out of the open market would need to be captured into the affordable market instead, and these numbers simply don't account for that. So, sir, as for how to vote on this, don't worry about it, because it makes no difference either way. But this ambition for the delivery of housing from this government is a big letdown to the island. I hope the Minister realises that he ought to have been stronger against his colleagues when fighting for ordinary working people on this island.
Deputy Taddy.
Thank you, sir. You're in for a treat this morning. You don't just get 1, 2, you get 3 Reform Jersey speeches, and I came in especially to deliver mine in person, sir. I'm pleased to be back.
4.
Sir, it is surreal being in the Assembly and listening to these detached voices coming from above. It almost feels like we are being spoken to by the Almighty himself, of course, with different voices on different occasions. And I can't decide whether it comes with more authority to have it in that way or less. But certainly when I heard the disembodied voice of the Deputy of Trinity asking the Attorney General a question which sounded like a speech, in fact I thought it was a speech, so when you interrupted him I said, why is the Chair interrupting the Deputy of Trinity in the middle of his speech, realising it was a question to the Attorney General, asking the Attorney General for clarification on what his party's policy and his government's policy is on affordable housing. Because the Alliance Party and the current government don't even know the definition of affordable housing and what it means, let alone have any ideas as to how to solve the crisis and problem of affordability, sir.
I think
I'm happy to give way to...
There was a voice from the ether.
I'm waiting to be struck down, sir, any moment.
If members who are using Teams...
But I doubt the Alliance members...
Sorry, Deputy, if I could... If members who are using Teams could make sure the mics are off, because it is disruptive to members who are speaking to hear these noises. Deputy Taddy, sorry.
Yeah. I don't expect to be struck down by the disembodied voice, sir. Let's bring this back down a little bit. The reason I asked the question yesterday to the Attorney General was because I feel that the point I was making isn't one about left or right or where you stand on the political spectrum for me on this point. It's one about inherent fairness. And can we, as Assembly members, it doesn't matter whether or not in reality any of the decisions that we make in this island plan will be challenged by judicial review or just by appeal in the usual ways, and whether they will be successful. We are here to try and make fair and equitable decisions on the whole about the way our island is governed and about the impositions that we put on people, especially in this context about the things they can and cannot do with their own land. And if we say to people, you see that field over there, we want it for affordable housing. So it's no longer going to be a field for grazing. It's no longer going to be a field where perhaps people can walk through in order to get to another place, walk their dogs, go with their children. It's no longer a place where you can grow vegetables or do whatever it is that you might have done or we might have done with it in the past. It's for housing. Oh, by the way, it has to be 100% affordable housing. And of course, they might say to you, well, why does it have to be 100% affordable housing? And the answer, of course, maybe not the official answer, is because you won't be given planning permission otherwise. So you either keep it as a green field, or you do what we say, and you make it 100% affordable housing. Does that sound slightly alarming? Does that sound slightly mafioso, the way of doing things? It does to me, and I'm a dirty lefty. So I shouldn't say the word lefty, sir. But I'm an unwashed socialist, and I can see that is inherently unfair. Maybe the Conservatives in the Assembly think that's okay. It's okay for government to act in that way. But yet when it comes to the government and its own land, which it administers perhaps indirectly through arm's length bodies such as the States of Jersey Development Company or whoever else, Ports of Jersey, whatever, we say, oh no, the rules don't apply to us. And so if somebody comes along and says, maybe make it 30% affordable homes, maybe make it 50%, they say, oh, we couldn't possibly do that. How on earth would we make the figures stack up? Yet we expect different economic rules to apply to the private sector. So we say, but your field, of course, you don't need to have 70% or 85% to make your project viable. Your project will be viable because we tell you that it has to be viable. Do we support that inherently? Again, this is not about party politics. It's about what is fair. And is it different? It's a bit like science, isn't it? The climate science. The science is either correct or it's not. And the economics either stack up or it doesn't. And until this government and any future government can actually play by fair rules when it comes to what we want to see in the island, I think it's inherently unacceptable. And some members have said, well, it doesn't really matter whether we support these figures. It's just increasing it slightly from what it should be. I don't agree with that. The other point is, without any of these predefined policies and the thought that goes into it, why on earth would I support more homes being built when I've already got a problem with rezoning in the first place? So until we've decided all of these things and the government has a proper policy, why would I want to be giving more and more land away based on these flawed policies that already exist for rezoning? I wouldn't, sir. And that's why I'm actually quite comfortable in voting against this, sir. So I'm going to leave it at that. There are other points that I could make which are probably better argued in a different context, sir. But I would say to all members in this Assembly, it's important that we individually, when we press that button, whoever we normally vote with and whoever we normally support and give our support to, if indeed that's the way one operates, is that we then have to own that decision. We can't in the future say, well, oh, you know, we just went along with what the government of the day was doing. The government that didn't have even a definition for the very word affordability. I think that's really important to remember, sir. I, for my part, can't support this today. I will look in the future, hopefully, if I'm still here, with an open mind about where in Jersey and how we can use land properly, but I'll make sure we do it in a way that takes the community with us and that does it in an even-handed way and does it with a government which is prepared to act fairly and apply the rules fairly, because fundamentally, sir, I don't agree that it's okay to say, do what I do, not do what I say, not what I do. The government should be leading, for example, and if this government isn't able to do it, then it should make way for a government who is.
Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? Deputy Morrell.
Thank you, sir. And good morning, States members. If anyone was slumbering this morning, I'm sure they have been woken up by those three speeches, all of them, but ending with a particularly unexpected defence of the private sector by Deputy Tadje. That really wasn't expected at all, but a really good point to be made. Sir, it's this amendment, I just find such a strange amendment. It's, in a sense, come out of nowhere. The minister yesterday accepted that he doesn't know the capacity of the construction sector to deliver these homes. We know that previous Island Plan, they under-delivered homes. This one's even shorter, so we're actually now talking about requirements up to 2025. So there's an expectation in these numbers that somehow they will deliver 4,150 homes in 3 years. So I have serious doubts about that. I asked yesterday if the minister knew about the capacity of the construction sector. He effectively said he didn't, sir. So there is only one way, of course, to deliver 4,150 homes in the next 3 years, and that is to bring in huge amounts of construction workers to do so. Those huge amounts of construction workers, obviously, sir, will in turn exacerbate our housing crisis. And so we see that we are caught in a vicious circle, sir, that I don't believe these revised numbers will do anything at all to change. I am with Senator Mezek and Deputy Tadje, and vote for any numbers in some sense. It doesn't matter. These can't be delivered. The minister's increased them. Fine. That's absolutely fine. I think that Deputy Tadje has made a really good point about the unfairness, but we know this. The government always, doesn't matter who's in charge of the government always prefers itself and gives itself preferential situation compared to the private sector. So it's not a huge surprise. But I have to ask the minister, does he know the population of the island? Does he know the census results from last year? Because if he does, I'd be grateful if he could share them with the rest of the Assembly. Does he know the capacity of the building sector? No, he doesn't. Does he know that the objective analysis of housing need is now an old document, and Senator Mezek was absolutely right to refer to it, but effectively that was written in 2017/2018, I believe it was published in 2018. We now know, following Brexit, following the pandemic, that objective analysis of housing need is out of date, completely out of date, based on completely different assumptions about what was happening with Jersey's population. Has the minister determined how many unused homes or properties there are in Jersey? No, he hasn't. Has the minister really ascertained what can be done with brownfield sites or beige sites, as we were told yesterday? No, he hasn't. Has the Minister just said, you know what, let's build on green fields because that's the easy place to do it? Yes, he has. That's what I see. I do not see this cascade where you start with existing built-on sites and go down with greenfield sites as the absolute last resort. No, I feel, and this is why I find it difficult with this island plan as a whole, I feel he has just leapt to the greenfield sites. I was in the Environment Scrutiny panel. I was asking then, what are we doing to understand how many unused properties there are in Jersey? The answer was very little. There were a few kind of blustered responses and that's it. It's appalling. We have to use land and our resources as efficiently as possible. And yet we are just staring at that problem and just saying, you know what, it's too hard. It's really a bit too difficult for us to deal with. To try and find out how many unused homes in the island, it's really tough. It's so much easier to build on greenfield sites. So, sir, for me, the Minister's making up some numbers. And there is the argument to say, therefore, support this, because it really doesn't matter. I take the opposite. I say this is not evidence-based. This is just Minister reaching for numbers. He hasn't done his homework, as far as I'm concerned, and I shall not support this revision of numbers. We have the first set of numbers, we'll take them and move on from there. So I urge other members of the Assembly as well, don't just say yes because the Minister says yes when members know very well the Minister has not done his homework. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. And my speech at this stage will be short. Because I realised yesterday that this is actually the third island plan I've sat through. And I mean literally sat through. Because it's not a very active process. Each of those island plans has taken approximately a week. So that's 3 weeks of my life wasted. I'll tell you why it's wasted, and we've had a hint about it in the 3 previous speeches. Do we have an overwhelming demand for areas in which to grow potatoes? Or vegetables? All sorts. Do we have an overwhelming demand? Are there cows knocking on our front door saying, let me be built? We need another million litres of milk. No, we don't. The world has changed. Jersey has changed. We're not predominantly dependent on milk, potatoes, and, very appropriate to yesterday's debate, on tomatoes, given that half of our glass houses are falling down, and we don't know what to do with them. But the hint was there. We have a demand for housing. We have a demand for homes. There is a crying demand to house our population properly, decently, in a dignified way. Have we got that in front of us today? I don't believe we have. Because I recognise last night, and it was only towards the end, and I realised we'd come to the final stage of an island plan, one which basically, and it happens time and time again, not just with island plans, but in all sorts of ways, one where we've got a bidding war, basically. You vote for my greenfield, and I'll vote for yours. Have the phone calls been going round last night? Have the emails been going round last night? Of course they have. I don't know that because nobody bothers to try and tap me up, because I was born a grumpy old man, and I'll probably finish my days as a grumpy old man. So don't come knocking on my door for a swap. And yet I suspect very deeply that's exactly what's going on. People are doing deals. And I look forward to seeing or trying to estimate where those deals have been done. Ooh, interesting vote over there. Ooh, matches with this one over here. Oh, there's a swap. So I look forward to the next, it might be another 3 days yet. The next 3 days, as we see the bids unravelling and the bidding war starts. Here we go. I'll swap yours for mine. See if you can spot them too.
Deputy Guida.
Thank you, sir. I'm a little bit confused because it seems that two things happen. First, we are now in full political mode and not talking at all about the subject at hand, which is the creation of affordable homes. But somehow we're being criticized that it's not happening. But that's what we're trying to do right now, putting this in. And second, I can't believe what I just heard from Deputy Morel, going about, we haven't done our homework, we haven't looked at anything, we haven't looked at brownfields, we haven't looked at the things that could be developed. This, sir, is the summary of the island plan. It's a summary of thousands of pages of reports, of 3 years of work that we have done on the whole island. We have left no stone unturned. We have looked behind every blade of grass. We have looked at everything. The list of sites that were first presented were looked at for 2 years. They were selected extremely carefully. So to tell us that, oh my God, there's still a greenhouse that you haven't considered, or there's still a brownfield somewhere that could be developed, or a quarry that we could turn into housing. No, I'm sorry, those have been done. Those have been considered. Considering how much, and again, if nature is going to do the work for you, why would you start writing legislation? If anybody had a brownfield that they could develop, they would have. You make millions quickly, now, right now. Why would anybody keep a brownfield and wait for the government to actually force them to build? It doesn't happen like that. And that's something actually that's quite important in this. The plan is an allowance. It doesn't tell people what to do. So when you say this field can be developed, that's exactly what it means. It means it can be developed. If somebody wants to develop it, it can be developed. Now, this allowance is extremely valuable. It multiplies the value of your field by 10 instantly. And it's something that we give for free. Because we give it for free, we put conditions on it. And what we say is there's a limit to the profit that you can make. We do not want you to build expensive homes. We want you to build affordable homes where you, the developer, and the builders will have taken the smallest amount of profit as possible so that the houses remain affordable. And that is the condition for multiplying the value of your field by 10. And that's how it works. And it has to work like that because we do not build. We are not going to go into those fields and build. We are allowing developers to do it with a condition. So I have no idea where this comes from, this idea that, oh yes, we're working on greenfields. It is cheaper to build on a greenfield because the greenfield starts with almost zero value. A 1 hectare field in Jersey is £200,000. You can put dozens and dozens of houses on it. So it starts with almost no value. And that's how you make cheaper homes, more affordable homes, by starting with the land being extremely affordable. When you go to town, it changes. And some of those sites are extremely valuable. And that's something that, again, I don't understand. The government has got a Rolls Royce, and instead of selling it to buy 30 caravans, it's going to give you a sleeping bag and ask you to sleep in it. That's ridiculous. If we have a lot of value in sites, in town, we should extract that value and use it better, and use it to make more affordable homes. The notion, again, the laws of physics, the laws of the economy just completely disappear. We just need to tell people, oh, build here, and we don't care if you're going to make money, if it's going to be cheap or whatever. Just build there because we've asked you to. This is a normal process. And again, I can't believe this. I can't believe this on the deputy. Oh, we haven't done our homework. We didn't look at this. I'm sorry. First of all, any development that could happen has happened because the economy is so strongly biased towards developing anything in Jersey. And second, we've looked at everything that we could. Everything was looked at. So this is very, very simple. We are going to spend the next week looking at how many affordable homes we can build. Why there is a resistance to that? It's mind-boggling. Yes, of course you want your page on the JEP, but sorry, at the expense of building affordable homes? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Please, let's get on with this very, very quickly. It's an indication of our will to go there, of our will to do that, of our will to make affordable homes. It's all it is. It's not binding. It's just an indication from this assembly to say, yes, we do want affordable homes. And this year, we are ready to sacrifice our rare and important greenfields for that. And don't say, oh, the farmers don't need them. The island needs them. There's nobody in the street that's going to say, yeah, raise the whole thing. It doesn't matter that there's only 50% of the island left green. We can build on all that. Nobody will say that. They want to live in Jersey because Jersey is beautiful, because it is green. So we are sacrificing this, kicking and screaming because we need it. And please, let's get on with the process. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. And following yesterday's debate, I would like to add briefly to this one because I really am struggling to understand the analysis that some political persuasions have placed upon this debate of affordable housing when we are now, after yesterday's result, facing greater pressure to build on green fields because yesterday it was decided that affordable housing on beige fields was going to contribute too much profit, and that was only 50% of the sites, but that in the eyes of the Assembly was too much profit for the owners of those beige sites. So I hope members will really dig deep in their consciences today when they're approaching this issue, because at the end of the day, this is a muddle. Deputy Morel was absolutely right that the government has brought forward an island plan that doesn't have any census information. So we are facing these decisions with a complete lack of evidence. But what we do know and what we do have is the anecdotal evidence. It is extremely clear. And I think it was Deputy Southern who said that the public are crying out for affordable homes. And we all know that despite the lack of evidence because it is very clear. I did myself gather a little evidence in a small survey that was circulated a couple of months ago, which indicated very clearly to me from the admittedly small sample that 25% of people are spending over 61% of their entire household income on housing costs. That's rent, mortgage, or bills. 61% of their household income is a huge amount of money. And then we have to take into account that 70% of those people who are answering the survey spend between 11 and 30% of their household income on food costs. So at the higher end of those groups, we have practically the entire household income going on both housing costs and then food. So it leaves absolutely nothing left for anything else, which is the massive quality of life, cost of living crisis that we are trying to deal with. So those members who are tempted just to balk at the government for their lack of evidence-based approach to this and what is potentially a tinkering with the numbers and no knowledge of whether we can deliver it or not, we are going to have to find a way to meet what we do know is a crisis. And so the numbers are essentially plucked out of the air. But I'm afraid we do need to support them because in our heart of hearts, we know that we need to deliver more affordable housing. And the stronger the message that we give to anybody who can contribute to resolving that issue, that's our job today, I guess. And so I would urge members to support the increased numbers. It's going to be a difficult debate coming forward, as we inevitably will clash and find great difficulty in accepting some of the sites that are being proposed to us. But we have to move on, and that's our job. We are here to consider what our constituents think and feel and tell us, and find the best way that we think on our consciences is going to resolve those issues for the island.
Thank you, Senator Farnham.
Thank you, sir. I supported Senator Moore's proposition yesterday because I do have a significant, I do have a fundamental problem with some of the greenfield sites proposed, and if that proposition had succeeded, then we would have helped rebalance the number of houses, would have made more homes available on beige sites, brownfield sites potentially, and therefore that would have given us more leeway with some of the greenfield sites proposed. And this is, I just wanted to try and bring some members back on track a little bit. This is this amendment is largely an academic exercise to adjust the number of units that the plan is trying to achieve. And the numbers, I mean, ironically, actually, supporting this amendment supports increased numbers, and not supporting it actually supports reduced numbers. The change is also to be clear that we must rezone enough land to support realising the overall number. Now, in relation to the provision of affordable homes, we can't, whilst we're rezoning and putting figures in, we have very little control over just how many affordable homes will emerge. And I think every member of this Assembly is absolutely aware, without doubt, that we must prioritise at every opportunity the delivery of affordable homes. And there are some exciting plans, I think, will start gathering momentum to do that when we look at the Better Homes Plan and other innovative ideas that are coming forward, such as shared equity, access to funds, longer mortgages, 100% loans, this kind of thing. That is going to be the catalyst that delivers more affordable homes, because developers will look to deliver a good returns, and I think actually where the demand is now, if we can increase the demand for affordable homes, because not every single islander needs to come onto the housing ladder. There are a good percentage of islanders who will want to downsize, upsize, sell different properties, develop their own homes, and all sorts of things. A home is a home at the end of the day. But if we can really get behind the Better Homes Plan and innovative ideas to get especially our young islanders onto the housing ladder, however we do that, create more demand for affordable homes, then the market will respond and more affordable homes will be delivered. And there are other ways we can achieve that. The new government must prioritise that. Not adopting this revision to the policy today will simply just set a slightly lower target, and the extra 150, ironically, is in the affordable homes bracket. So whilst it's a theoretical exercise, just to be clear, adopting this amendment does put in place a plan that delivers more homes. Not adopting it puts in place a plan that delivers slightly less. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? Senator Le Fondre.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm quite pleased to follow the last speaker, sir. So I'm just turning my volumes down to make sure I try not to get this echo that seemed to come through. Can you hear me okay, sir? Can you hear me okay, sir?
I can hear you fine, Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I was slightly confused listening to this debate, sir, because it seemed to go everywhere on what I thought was a relatively simple amendment, which, as certainly Senator Farman has explained, is actually following the recommendation of the inspector at the end of the day. I'll just try and find the note. It's Inspector's Recommendation 20, that the housing supply figure expressed in Policy H3 should make provision for, and it's 4,300 homes, etc. In other words, it's an increase recommended by the inspector on the basis of better data that's come through and as a result of the process that's gone through for the Bridge and Island Plan. Therefore, it does rather feel so that people have made an awful lot of mountains out of some relatively very small molehills. And on that basis, then, I think actually I agree with the latter part of Senator Moore's views as well, which were that, in essence, that this amendment should be supported. I'll make two comments, sir, just to again remind members. I too would like to know the census data, sir, but the point has been made on a number of, I've made the point on a number of occasions, the release of the census data is in the hands of the Independent Statistics Department, sir, and the Chief Statistician. It is not under the control of the government. I too would like to know those numbers, as would all ministers, but it is not under our control because this Assembly and previous assemblies have rightly defended the independence of the Chief Statistician and the people who work for him. And that is the position, sir, and I really do think members need to be more careful about blaming the government for the census data not being available. It is something where the process has been laid out and the dates have been set out. The other point, sir, which has been addressed in the raised in the debate, I think we again need to make the point, is if one has to spend £50 million for the sake of argument, if we've got a large scheme on infrastructure, something has to pay for that. It's either a mix, i.e. more expensive homes, which therefore the profit on which therefore pays the infrastructure, or it's a straight payment from the government ultimately, depending who owns the site, straight out of taxpayers' money. You can make the choice, but if you want that £50 million of infrastructure, usually to make the scheme better or to improve facilities for islanders or islanders in that area, wherever that development is, there are essentially very few choices. There is not a magic wand, a magic money tree that has to be waved. So therefore, unfortunately, money and viability and profitability and spreadsheets and all that sort of stuff are important when you're looking at schemes. And it's a great shame that certain members don't seem to recognise that, sir. And those are the consequences that we have to face in what is always a very difficult decision. But on that basis, sir, as I go back to the point, this is, as I said, sir, basic implementing, as is laid down in the report to the amendment, sir. It says that the Inspector's Recommendation 20 therefore makes suggestions about increasing the number of homes, sir, and this, what it states is this amendment gives effect to that recommendation. It should, in my view, therefore not be such a confusing debate as some members have attempted to make it. I will be supporting this amendment, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The Constable of St Saviour.
Thank you, sir. This is really worrying me. This whole process has given me lots of sleepless nights because my parish is heavily involved in being transferred into a racetrack and all sorts of things. But it's the way we're going, this gung-ho attitude. Now we have this, and we've just been told that if we vote for this, we're going to have less. If we vote against it, we're going to have more. And I just can't see why we haven't got an immigration policy. We just can't keep building on sites, on green fields, because people need homes. I appreciate people need homes, but we also have to have a proper balance. So what do? We make sure that the people we've got here, they've changed the numbers as it is in this number 19, the amendment 90, the amendment. It's lip service. We've increased everything from 3,750 to 4,000, and we cannot keep doing this. We're 9 by 5. Why can't somebody come up with something really sensible? Because this isn't sensible. This is lip service. This is making sure that People are going to be thrilled. We're going to have these homes. Where are you going to put them? Are we going to have compulsory purchase on the green fields if people don't want to sell them? I am very heartbroken as to where my island is going, with no sense of sensibility at all. We need an immigration policy, and please don't keep telling me we need all these people to come and work. Yes, we do. And when I've had people come and work for me on the farm, they've said, oh, well, I'm not coming today because it's raining, and besides, I get more with Social Security. And providing I can buy my cigarettes and run my bike, that's all I'm interested in. That's not an incentive to get somebody to work. And I've digressed just a little bit, but this island is going in the wrong direction as far as I'm concerned. And it's worrying me. Everybody wants a home, and I can quite understand, although heaven knows why, because when you get old, you're going to have to sell it to keep you. So you've worked yourself really hard to buy a property, to have the security, and when you're old, the state is going to take it off you anyway, because it's going to be needing you to look after you. And if you don't have a home, you're going to be looked after anyway. It's a vicious circle, but this plan at this moment and this increase of everything is worrying me very, 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 very much, I'm afraid. And maybe because I'm old, but I cannot see a way out for this island to be back to what it was for a while and be happy and everybody secure. Sorry, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Ash.
Thank you, sir. I'd just like to come back to what Senator Moore said, and I think she's 100% right. Maybe these figures are not as accurate as they could be, and possibly they might even be a wish list. I don't know, because I haven't worked on them. But she's 100% right when she says we've got to set some sort of target and try to do it. There's no point everybody wandering around saying we've got this crisis going on if they're not willing to take any action to stop it. And again, in fairness, yesterday, she was again correct. She tried to bring the glass houses. I voted against that because I don't believe in them, and I detailed my reasons then. But members of the Reform Party voted against the glass houses. I voted that we should build higher. They voted against going higher. So what do they want? They don't want to build on greenfields. They don't want to build on the glass houses. They don't want to go higher. But we've got this big housing problem that we really need to address as soon as possible. So I fully agree with Senator Moore that we do have to try. Whether we can do it or not, we'll have to see. But if we don't set an ambitious goal, we're not going to get anywhere. There was a little bit of good news. I noted earlier in the debate, sir, Senator Mizek said he was going to retire to the coffee lounge and say nothing for the rest of the debate. Hopefully he may take a few other members of his party there, and while they share their fair trade mocker, sir, in the coffee room, if he wants to dial 726-373, that will take him through to Specsavers. And once he avails himself of Specsavers services, I will take him around various sites, such as the Samurai development that has been done, and very impressively done, even though I perhaps wouldn't have voted for it in St Clement, but it's very impressive. The complete renovation of the Lascaux area, the La Colette low-rise that is now becoming built, the Mayfair Hotel, the Lines, the Horizon building. Anybody who wants to wander out now in St Helier will see cranes everywhere. So it is quite wrong to say that nobody has been trying to build housing. And I use the word housing because I know Deputy Ward wouldn't want to use units, although I noticed Senator Farnham did there, Deputy Ward, if you want to put a negative mark down against him. It is very, very important to realise that there is an effort being made with housing. Yes, we need to make a bigger effort, but there's plenty going on at the moment. You only have to open your eyes to see it. And let's not get too bogged down in this rhetoric that we are just ignoring the problem. The other thing, so while he's there, if he gets a pair of reading glasses, he can go on the Jersey Alliance website, have a look at our housing paper, which will tell him that what we want to do is up the target for 3,000 affordable or Andium homes. We've put 3,000 Andium homes to 5,000 Andium homes by 2030. I hope that clarifies the position for him. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I was the person who asked yesterday point of clarification. If we vote for this amount of houses, what's the implication, what we are committing for? And it was very helpful conversation with the minister yesterday. I came to the assembly and I listened for speech from the Reform Party, and there are points, most of them, that I agree with. We do need homes, we need affordable homes. I listened to the Senator Moore, and I agree with her. I even listened to Deputy Ash, and I think point that he made, we have to make choices where we will build. And everyone sitting here in this assembly will need to make a choice. If it's greenfield, what type of greenfield, if it's glass houses, if we will build higher. We cannot have it all, and we do need houses. And I think the point that really stuck with me, 600 affordable homes that proposed here on rezoning, it's the target. We have to put the target. I don't believe that we will reach this target through the Bridging Island plan. I might be surprised. Personally, I'll struggle to see all fields, but we have to have a target, and after voting or not voting here, the next government needs to deliver the target. If it's through the derelict glass houses and bring it amendments, or it's through the highways, we need to find the solution to have affordable houses, and we need to have a target. So with all considerations, I think I'll be supporting this amendment.
Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? If not, I will call on the Minister to respond.
Thank you, sir. I think that's an extremely good opening debate. I think the last speaker echoed the very words when I was elected Environment Minister and taken on the task of producing the plan for the Assembly. This process requires choices. We have to choose between options which are, in many cases, conflicting, and that's why we have a plan. It's a plan. It can't be based on exact information. It's based on the best possible information, or best available information. The figures are estimated, but they've gone through a long process. And I have to challenge the view that these figures are without foundation. I think I'm trying to find the actual word used, baseless. They are not. Can I point members to the inspector's report? The inspector, their report was very brief and succinct, but they devote 3 pages of analysis to the evidence that they considered on both the housing need, because that's part of the story, and it is true. The objective assessment of housing need that Senator Mezek referred to is 2018. But of course, beyond that, that identified a shortfall. And of course, we haven't been able to have that revision. We had COVID, maybe, but obviously Senator Mezek, I can't remember the time, but if the Senator Mezek perhaps had been able to see that through, we might have had better numbers, but they were the best numbers. I say we have to use them. And so they're absolutely not fiction. The inspector's report, again, pages 21 to 24, I'm not going to pick out a couple of phrases, if I may, sir. The inspector finds the cautious approach taken by the Minister, we find it as prudent and logical, taking into account the available evidence and the obvious uncertainties flowing from Brexit and COVID pandemic. And so we got to a calculation there, and the issue was how did that estimate of need compare to the estimated supply? And here we're starting from numbers here where already, and Deputy Ash referred to cranes everywhere in St Helier. There are already 1,000, well, the last figures we had on homes under construction now, or at least the last figures, I think, 1,325 under construction, homes under construction. There are 1,000 homes that have planning permission, and the assumption based on historical trends and evidence is that we plan on the basis that 70% of those, 70%, so 700, will come forward during the planned period. Some of those 700 are probably already now under construction, updating the number of homes under construction. So that's around 2,000. So we're about halfway there. But not enough. And that was the issue that the island plan had to grapple with, and the inspector reviewed in great detail. Now, I know Senator Mesic wasn't able to be at the inquiry. I think the Senator was ill, I understand that. And I'm sure if Senator had been there, he would have been able to fully state his case with the inspectors. But others were, and this was thrashed out. I can't recall whether Deputy Morell was there, because obviously I think Deputy Morell may have tended to something else, but I don't remember, and I apologise to you if I get this wrong. I watched all the videos back. I don't remember the challenge that Deputy Morell has made to the veracity of these numbers being made at the inquiry. And I'll correct that if he, but I don't remember it, and nor did the planning officers who were present at that inquiry. And it is a technical business. It is difficult. It's about using the information we've got, the best available. So what were they trying to address? Look, we know we can be pretty firm about what's under construction and what's likely to come forward, but what about the rest? There is a real shortfall. And an assumption, a decision had to be made. How much of that shortfall should we seek to recover in the planned period, or build, or to catch up during the planned period? How much of it? Now, we know that the 2,000 homes, which is where we are now, is our current starting point in the capacity of the industry. Deputy Morell says there's no information. Again, this was an issue thrashed out at the inquiry. The inspector report deals with it. 2,000 is our current where we are now. So we could have gone to a much bigger number. But what we decided to do was to assume we could achieve half of the shortfall. Half of the shortfall is what drives the targets that were proposed in the island plan. The targets which the inspector's now telling us why we need to just increase even more, and hence this amendment. 50%, but that's still a doubling. Now, the key thing about the island plan, and this is the criteria for planning processes everywhere, and the inspectors address this, it has to be deliverable. We could have a plan that says we're going to meet 100%, but we wouldn't have a chance of being able to triple the rate of homes production. We can't do it. The industry said that they are geared up. Their evidence from the construction industry at the inquiry was they're geared up to do it. And with the impact as well of modern construction methods and labour efficiency and that whole agenda which they're very active on, they supported. They think this is something which is doable. But of course the jury's out, as Deputy Gardner says. we have to set a target, and those members have said that we have to, and do our best to try and achieve it, and have a plan for doing it. Now, I very much enjoyed the reform speeches. I particularly, I have to say, enjoyed Deputy Tadier, and welcome into the Assembly, because I used to sit next to Deputy Tadier, and I loved his wit. And somehow or other, the disembodied voice of Deputy Tadier coming over the north is not quite the same as what it is in here with his wit. And so I congratulate him on that, because I think he did get his point across very effectively with that. So I'm not challenging the logic of what he said. Well, we're saying, you poor guys that have green fields that are only worth, we're not going to let you have the crown jewels by developing them for open market housing. We're going to make sure you just get half the crown jewels for affordable housing. At the same time, we say we want the full crown jewels from our own lands, but of course that doesn't take into account, nor did the various positions of the reform members when they said that the 600 is when they dealt with the issues of the sites. I think the proposition was said, and I'm just going to read it if I might, sir. Sorry if I go off line. It says here. Anyway, the homes. The point is this: the homes in the built area have all can be used for anything. They can be used. The land in the built area can be used for open market, can be used for affordable homes, and of course, where we own our own homes, we own land, we can develop them for affordable homes, and that is the choice that the members of the Reform Party are offering us in amendments, which we're going to be coming to later on after we've got through this part of the housing section. That is on amendments 25 and 41 that deal with the issue of how and what type of homes we develop on both state-owned land. That's in Amendment 25, and also in Amendment 41. I hope I get the order of these right. Amendment 41 is about what impositions we put on open market developers to produce a portion of homes, and we have called those in the proposition, which I put an amendment in, as assisted purchase homes, because the Reform members did rightfully flag up some of the issues of which have arisen about the type of tenures that the housing minister is talking about, low start, all this type of thing. The intention there is to have more flexibility in that. But nonetheless, we're going to have those debates. And it is true, possibly, depending on the outcome, that may well change this table. But I think that is a later debate. We'll be able to assess that as we go through. So, but at the moment, this table is based on us achieving a 50% impact into the backlog. And it is, you see that the 600 homes, which is proposed to be affordable, they're on land which is specifically zoned. Perhaps I didn't get that clear across. The affordable homes in this proposition, or this particular policy in the island plan, which is H3, is about land which we specifically zone for affordable homes, the 600. Now, and that helps us. It's a component, it's a pretty big component of the target, yes. So I don't quite see where there's a case for saying we don't like this target, we want to bring it down. We want to bring it down to 450. I think we'll see as we go through the later debates what the states members decide in their individual decisions. But at the moment, I believe we should stick with the targets because it is a target. Now, I'm just going to look see if there's any other points that I needed to know. Answer to Deputy Morrell, I don't know the census data. I don't know the empty property. I'm not so sure. I have railed on about this for a long time in all of the island plan process. Why don't we know? But as we got closer to now this debate, I ask, how's it going to help us if we knew? I don't know what it is. It would be like reading a thermometer. It's where it is now. Which way is it going to go? We know that the assumption in the demand is based on the fact that we are going to see at least a 40% reduction in persons coming to work in Jersey. 40% reduction. That was the figure that was discussed at the inquiry. I think I probably said enough to persuade members that I think we should carry on. This isn't a perfect process. I think we should absolutely stick with this and move on to the much more difficult debates. This is, this is technical, but it is an important one. Thank you, sir.
So I had a point of clarification from the Minister. I was just to ask what type of thermometer.
I think we'll move on to the vote. Members online should be prepared to vote in the chat. This is on the 90th amendment. Members in the chamber, I will ask the greffier to open the voting. Members have had an opportunity to cast their votes. I will ask the greffier to close the voting. And the amendment has been adopted, 33 votes per, 9 votes contra.
The members voting in contre, Senator Mezek, the Connétable of Grouville, Deputy Southern, Deputy Tadier, Deputies Morel, Lehegerat, Ayer and Ward, and in the chat, the Connétable of St. Saviour.
Thank you very much. So we move on to the 7th amendment, which is proposed by Deputy Gardner, and I will ask the greffier to read the amendment.
Page 2, after the words the Draft Island Plan 2022 to 25, insert the words, except that, within policy H5, after the words Affordable Housing Gateway, there should be inserted the words, where no more than 50% of the allocation of affordable homes for purchase on any given site should be to people who are prioritised due to being able to demonstrate links to the parish in which the homes are located, with no such restriction applying to people aged 55 or over.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure that members remember debate. It was my first proposition 3 years ago when I asked for 100% of the houses not to go through the parish allocations, to be open for anybody who is eligible to access affordable housing gateway. That proposition was rejected. It's not that I'm not aiming to have 100%. At the same time, I realize that the best to find the halfway in the middle, and this is where the amendment to the Bridging Island Plan came. We all know and discuss not once that Jersey is in housing crisis, and especially shortage of social and affordable housing. This amendment put in the center first-time buyers. It doesn't touch over 55 who would like to remain in the parishes. and I can understand why. If we look into the Bridging Island Plan 22-25, page 2, planning is about creating a better future, protecting our environment for generations to come, and enabling sensitive development that improves the lives of people now and over long term. The island plan is hugely important for Jersey. It set out how, as a community, we will create homes, strengthen our economy, protect and improve our environment, provide for good quality of life, and enhance what's special about our island. The key word I wish to focus on, it's from the quote, as you can imagine, is community. The idea of building a strong and inclusive island-wide community in line with our common strategic goals. It means that we have housing getaway open for the community. And up to 50% for the housing parish links, it's a compromise that can ensure that people who would like to stay, and it's really important to stay in the parish and would be willing to wait maybe another 5-10 years when the parish will have development, will continue, and at the same time 50% of the residents in the parishes which don't have parish developments, St. Helier, St. Xavier, St. Clements, probably Greville also will not have many parish developments than it looks now, will be able to access according to their eligibility and not according to their parish connection. I'm proposing my amendment.
Is the amendment seconded?
Point of
Sorry, Deputy Southern, did you have a
point of clarification?
If Deputy wants to accept it, yeah.
The problem is, what if we vote against? If we vote your 50% down, what do we revert to? Do we revert to 100% or 0%?
It will be depends, from what my understanding and the latest, it will be depends on the parish schemes. Some of the parishes would be willing to open it to island-wide, and some of the parishes still will have parish development and will have their parish connections. So this will allow, at least secure, that where the parish developments would go forward, we would have 50% open to the island.
Deputy Tadier.
I mean, I think it's clarification, sir, but the proposition doesn't say that. It says that no more than 50%. So if a parish wants to give more than 50% of its allocation to people with parish links, it can't do that. Is that what the...
No, it's no more. So they can give 70, 80, as much as they would, but no more than 50% to the parish links.
Does any member wish to speak on the amendments? Deputy Young.
To rise briefly, I've indicated I was going to accept this. I still support it. I think it's important. In fact, it was my suggestion that this be considered because past experience indicates that when it comes to this difficult subject of the zoning of fields, that you're going to find a very variable position between the parishes, and it's important to have rules. And also, I recognise that this plan, we did need to address the provision of homes in the villages, which are largely products of 70s and 80s development. And the message I got from Connie Tarbs that we needed to look at having some very, slight, allow a limited but very controlled expansion of those areas to ensure those communities remain sustainable in the future. And that has meant that I did encourage dialogue with the planning officers in the parishes, and obviously they're doing community to deal with, and I think it's important that we, in the rules for the gateway, that we integrate that with the issue about parish connections. And I think that was an important element of trying to ensure as best we can that what we do in these decisions is as far as we can, supported by a majority in the parish communities. And that's why I think in the past, I know the example, this is back from my civil servant days, when a major development took place in Bellevue Pleasure Park, which was developed for, I can't remember, I think nearly 300 homes. And there was the same issue arose, and the 50-50 solution, island-wide, v parish connections, but all of which have to qualify as affordable. I think the Housing Minister will probably make that claim. The issue about qualifications and running the gateway and the rules of that are all set within the Housing Minister's gift. That's what the zoning, as far as the island plan does, is just create the land, the category, the designation affordable. But I support this. Thank you.
Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. And I stand to agree with the Minister and support this amendment. To me, it seems eminently sensible. I completely understand why parishes want to maintain parish links to new housing, but equally, as Deputy Gardner puts it so well, we are an island 9 by 5, and potentially to restrict some rezoned affordable housing areas to purely parish links, which theoretically is possible if we don't bring this amendment, just seems, untenable in today's world, where at the end of the day you jump in a car and you can drive from Corbière to Gorey in half an hour. And so, as much as many people want to remain in the parishes that they know best, and they will try absolutely to do so, that's where the 50% comes in. It enables parishes to say, yes, half of this housing is for people in this parish already, or strong links to the parish, but we just have to accept that the other half, quite rightly, is open to people on the gateway from all over the island. And that in itself creates a good mixing of people as well. It's really important that we don't segregate people. People with parish links, people without parish links, and keep people separate. Communities thrive because of mixing and because of learning from each other. And as a result of that, I think to me this seems like an eminently sensible amendment. If people think otherwise, I'd be really interested to hear their views. Thank you.
Constable Grivel.
Thank you, sir. I wish I'd spoken before the Minister, because I have some sympathies with the proposition before us. But Grooville won't have a parish-sponsored scheme, sadly, because I've withdrawn mine. But if the Minister's field that he's putting forward is accepted, what involvement will the parish have in providing homes that I know are needed by my parishioners in their district? But he won't be able to answer because he's already spoken, but perhaps his Assistant Minister might do that. So.
Deputy St. One.
Thank you, sir. And I will remember the debate around the first proposition the Deputy brought, and I spoke in it and opposed the proposal then, because I believed it important to retain the parish links. There are people who do wish to continue to live in the parish in which they have close links and family links very often. And it has been a success story in the past. Developments have gone ahead because they've had parish support, because parishioners were often moving into the new developments. But what the Deputy has done this time, I think, is entirely fair, and I commend her for understanding the reasons why parishioners might want to think that way, and I would support it. I thank her for bringing this amendment for our part in St. One's. I've discussed it also with the Connotab. We would be very happy with a split of 50-50 in anything that we can create in St. One's. Thank you, sir.
Deputy of St. Mary.
Thank you, sir. And perhaps begin by saying I'm in no way challenging the proposition. I understand the merit of it. And in fact, I think the last housing development in St. Mary, we have a fair proportion of our properties occupied by people outside the parish, and the mix goes well. I'm just concerned or confused about the actual wording. The 50% allocation can be given to people who are prioritised due to parish connections, but the restriction applied to people aged 55 or over, does that technically mean that a parish could use its 50% allocation fully to younger people, and in addition, people over 55 would have priority in respect to the other 50%? Could she clarify that, please? Okay.
Constable of St Martin.
Thank you, sir. I'm happy to support this. And as constable of a parish and a relative newcomer to my own parish, because I've only lived in the parish for just over 30 years. I grew up in St Auban. It's very good to support the community and I really understand why people want to live in the community they grew up, but it's also very good to have people from other parishes like myself moving to another parish, so I do support this. And I would also like to say, because this will come up in a later debate, that I've lost count of the number of over 55s who've spoken to me who say they would love to downsize or right size, but we absolutely have nowhere in the parish to do this. So I welcome a split. I think it's really healthy. Thank you.
Constable of St Mary.
Thank you, sir. I'm concerned that we're actually considering to make this law. If we have 20 housing units in the parish and we have 20 parishioners, I think the first pick should go to those parishioners. But if we have 20 houses and we only have 2 parishioners who want them, then fine, they should go to outside people. And it doesn't matter who they are. Everybody wants a first home. I can't understand why we need to make a law on this. If we were to produce enough housing, we wouldn't have this problem. Thank you, sir.
Constable of St Peter.
Thank you, sir. I had the opportunity to speak with Deputy Gardner a few minutes ago, and I perhaps come to this from a different approach to the previous speaker, in that I said I certainly would support this, but in a way I was hoping it wasn't necessary, because I feel that the traditional parish development is not necessarily the mechanism by which we should be delivering houses today. I applaud actually the Minister for saying that all the affordable housing that in the areas that we rezone must go through the gateway, because I think that is the fair mechanism for deciding who should be allocated a house and who shouldn't. And yes, within that gateway there would be possible provision for a parish link, but I would hope that that parish link perhaps doesn't reach the 50% level, because it's quite important to have people from other areas of the island within our community, and I think that actually benefits the community to be welcoming people from other parts of the island. And that is my view, and that is the model that I will be proposing, that if we rezone the fields in St Peter, that is the model that we will be working to. We will work with Andium. It will not be a parish development in the old traditional form. Yes, we have a we will discuss with Andium. It has an impact on our village, but that is the parish involvement. It's not to decide who is allocated a house and who isn't. I think back to the 1970s, and would this be acceptable today, where quite literally the old constable, and I'm sure we won't mind, W.P. Lamarcon, pulled the names out of a hat, quite literally, of who would get a house in Le Grand Pièce and Ville de Bocage. And I presume that some form of parish list had been put together, and that the lucky recipients got their piece of paper and got on, well, quite literally building their own house, because the situation then, and sorry, digressing slightly, but they were delivered a shell of a house, and they then built the interior themselves and completed it. And that is the reason why actually many of them have never moved, because they have that strong connection with having built the interior of their house. Anyway, thank you very much, but those are my views on this, and I will support Deputy Gardner.
Deputy Wickington.
Thank you, sir, and I'm happy to follow my Assistant Minister there in some of his very good views. I'm worried about possible unintended consequences with this, because when I speak to students and parents, which I've done a lot of recently, their concern is clearly about housing, as we all know. But it's the over 55s, let's turn our volume down a bit, over 55s, could an unintended consequence of this be that all the parish housing schemes just go 100% over 55s instead? And does that mean, I have a few friends that have bought into the parish systems and they're all young professionals. Could we be ending up doing something via putting this in law that would actually mean that there would be less housing for young first-time buyers with strong parish links, which is what I think the whole system was set up to do, rather than and then it all goes to over 55s, 100% parish links over 55s. I'm just a bit curious. I wouldn't mind if the deputy, in her summing up, would just address whether she feels that that's possibility, or if that's an unintended consequence that hasn't been considered. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Constable Simperlard.
Thank you, sir. I regret that I'm unable to support this amendment due to its prescriptiveness. We have in Simperlard no available sites over which we have influence at this moment in time, sir, but my view is that parishioners and their families before them have supported their parishes through the payment of parish rates, so surely they must have priority, and the weighting must be significantly in their favour. However, sir, if there were to be a government development, it may be that my view would not apply. I don't keep a list as such, sir, because we have nothing to offer, but in the past, the filter has been fair and scored on the basis of parish connections in a variety of ways. And it seems as though, sir, the Constable of St Martin could well qualify. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Guido.
Yes, so I'll try to answer the few questions that I picked up. The first thing, of course, is that it would have been fair to give 100% of any new housing developed to the housing gateway to deal with according to the waiting list. However, we know that historically some developments, especially within the parishes, have been done with the interest of the parish in mind. Usually with extremely altruistic, for extremely altruistic reasons. So, for example, a field might actually be given by an owner in the parish for development if the field could be used to house people, the person's neighbors. So we did recognize that there was a reason for keeping a parish link where necessary, and we offered this compromise to Deputy Gardner, which he accepted gladly. So in this case, it's a maximum figure, and everything does go through the housing gateway anyway. So when a parish has a development that has a strong parish link for any particular reason, for example, because the land was given to the parish, they can request that up to 50% of the houses be given to people who have a parish link. And that does make sense because, again, sometimes it's children of the parish or grandparents of the parish that are trying to find a home. So that's the principle. But I think the most important thing in it is that everything does go to the gateway, and the gateway manages its waiting list as it wants, with one of the characteristics being the parish links, but only to a maximum of 50% of the houses. I hope this answers the question.
Constable Greville.
Beg your pardon. It didn't quite answer the question I was asking, which was Grooville will have no parish-sponsored fields. There's only one field put forward. It's been put forward by the minister. How much say will the parish have in promoting those who require affordable homes who have parish connections in that particular instance?
Deputy, is that a question you're able to answer?
Yes, but I'm still not sure I quite understand it. If the parish doesn't have its own developments, its people will go on the gateway like anybody else in the island, and they will have to find homes in other parishes all the way to the maximum of 50% if that development has been sort of preempted by a parish. But again, this is not going to affect most, or probably many of the developments. It is only when there is a strong, when there is a very strong link between the parish and the development, again, because of a gift of land, because the parish is the developer. There is at least one case that we know of. So the parish is the developer of the land for the parishioners, and what we say is, yes, but only for 50% of the available housing. The other homes have to be made available to people on the housing gateway list according to their other characteristics.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Southern.
Yes, sir. I suppose the question it comes down to in the end is, if we accept this proposition, do we end up in a better position than otherwise we would? And I think the answer to that is yes. So I think this has got my vote. I just want to make a few remarks about the way the system works, because I was involved in the scrutiny of the gateway, and quite frankly at the time I was completely gobsmacked when we said, yes, on an island 9x5 we will have a central organisation with clear set out rules as to who gets housed and in what order and who gets priority. And then we'll have an extra little bit built onto it to allow the parishes to say who gets the houses. And I just couldn't believe, how do you work that? So it's not a centralised scheme. It's the same scheme as we've had for centuries, with the parish getting priority. And that doesn't make sense to me. Nonetheless, having said that, it's still happening. This contains the words no more than, does it? Yeah. No more than 50%, and therefore has the structure of a limit. So at least we're getting a decent allocation and prioritisation for most of the people coming before the gateway. But really, the time will come soon, surely, to make sure we've got a single unified system for prioritisation of housing on this island. It's got to happen soon.
Deputy Tadier.
Thanks, sir. I'm a bit more interested in the statistical analysis of this and the practical way it will be administered. So let's take a scenario where there's 100 new homes in a parish. There are 150 applicants, 75 of them have demonstrable strong links to the parish, 75 have no links to the parish. Presumably what would happen is that the first 50 homes, which you have to have links to the parish, will be allocated to the first 50 of the 75. So you'll have 25 remaining who have strong links to the parish, and then the other 75 who don't have any links, let's say, for simplicity. I know in reality it might be more complex than that. Then you can allocate another 50 homes between the 25 who have strong links to the parish and the 75 who don't have links to the parish. But of course you will have to allocate those new homes in a way which doesn't take into account the fact that those 25 have strong links already, because otherwise it goes against what we're deciding today. That there will be an inherent wish, I'd have thought, or temptation from anyone to say, well, look, you couldn't get on to the allocated parish housing, so we'll just put you onto the non-parish housing. So it's really important, I think, that there are going to be strong mechanisms in place that are robust, where you have that blind, if you like, process where you don't, because you can't take into account whether somebody has links to the parish. It's no longer relevant for the remaining 50 homes. And that presumably needs to be done, and I don't think it can be done by drawing out of a hat either. It could be, possibly, but you'd probably need to have other criteria on which you score people. Or maybe you don't, I don't know. So that for me is where the devil is in the detail, because of course you could say, don't worry if you don't get one of these 50 homes. you can get one of the other 50. And it would be statistically worrying if, in fact, all 75 people with strong links to the parish ended up getting a home in those 100 homes, because it means we wouldn't have abided by what we're passing today. So I'm sorry if that sounds slightly cold and analytical in the way it looks at it, but I think we can't just pass things now which we don't think about what the consequences might be of that. The point I would make, of course, is that I do support the principle. If you're in a small parish in particular, you may not have a sufficient number of people who already have links to the parish in order to move in, and they may have made their own arrangements anyway. In the meantime, people don't stand on one leg for 50 years waiting for something to come up in the parish which is suitable and they can afford to. They want to get onto the homes ladder, if that's not a tautological, strange thing to say, sir. But we don't need to worry, of course, because as soon as somebody moves into the parish, then they have parish links. So, everybody who lives in your parish will have parish links. It might only be for a few days, months, or years, or centuries, in terms of families. But I think the more, not concerning thing, but the more interesting point here is that, and it doesn't seem to have solicited much discussion yet, is the removal of the over 55s requirement. It seems to me in my reading that would simply get away with it completely, would get rid of it. Again, I don't have a problem with that. I've often questioned why we have an over 55s policy. It seems to be at best slightly arbitrary and a blunt tool. Of course, it doesn't stop people who are under 55 living in the property. You will get people who have got slightly older spouses or partners. So you could have somebody who's 45 with a 55-year-old spouse. Of course, you can be living with your children. Increasingly, it's intergenerational now. And I think it can have perverse consequences for communities when we do put age restrictions on, not to mention the fact that unless it's genuinely justified to achieve a legitimate result, it's a form of discrimination, which I think we can do without. So I'm very comfortable to support this, but I will be interested to know about some of the practicalities on how housing is administered in reality.
Thank you. Councillor of St. One.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I'm very interested in Deputy Tadier's speech. And as always, on the mathematics bit, he managed to lose me almost instantly, but I'm sure the logic is correct. But firstly, talking about over 55 homes, perhaps I could help him a bit by describing how St. One's works its over 55 allocation. Firstly, obviously you have to be over 55, but then we do a fairly in-depth analysis of need, and we will go through the list, and we will try to allocate homes to those people that have the greatest need, i.e. They can't afford their rent, or they have some medical condition that requires carers to come in, a whole range of reasons, but it's based on need. And at the end of the day, yes, sometimes we will have people who are just over 55 living there, but broadly speaking, it's our housing is allocated to those people who are in, I won't say desperate circumstances, but in circumstances such that a move to our over 55 sheltered housing will make their lives a lot easier and will ease some of the financial burdens of perhaps running a house, or indeed in some cases paying high rents. So I hope in some way that's helped Deputy Tadier at least look at the St. One's view of things. Moving on to the parish allocation, if I could just describe how St. One's addressed the island plan. We set up a committee in 2018 to look at all the sites in St. One's that we could put into the island plan. And that involved an awful lot of work and an awful lot of research. But why this is relevant to this particular proposition is because a number of the sites that we put forward, and I have to say with the consent of the owners, and I think we looked at several hundred in the process, some of them had attached to them conditions which said, yes, we're happy for this site to go into the call for sites process, but we would like to see some of the site, if it's passed, appropriated to St. One's parishioners. Now, how we deal with this is we try to be as fair and objective as we can. We have a list, and the people on that list are dated on in terms of the time that they've been on the list. And also, they are required, to, if they want to go on the list, to go onto the housing gateway, so that they are selected from the gateway, and then, as Deputy Guida said, then they will look at the parish connections. So we believe that this is a fair and appropriate way of doing things. Now, this is what brings me to the reason why I'm prepared and keen to support Deputy Garden's proposal. I think it's entirely fair and reasonable that half the allocation should go to non-Wands parishioners, or indeed any parish parishioner who are looking at housing developments. Because we know there's a housing crisis, and we know that there are people outside of St Wands who are absolutely desperate for homes, in the same way that I have over 100 people on my list who are absolutely desperate for homes. So any development that is made in St Wands, or indeed any parish in my view, should help the island-wide need as well as helping parochial needs. So I think it's an entirely fair and reasonable proposal from Deputy Gardner, and one which has my support. And indeed, I think in some cases, if we didn't support this, if we said that no parish site could allocate houses to their own parishioners, there would be some sites that would indeed fall away, which would be a great shame, frankly, and indeed would not help the housing crisis overall. So in summary, I would be supporting this, and I think it's a very fair and reasonable way forward. Thank you, sir.
Senator Farnham.
Well, sir, a number of the points I was going to make have already been made, but I just wanted to reinforce the fact that notwithstanding our parishes, which make up the rich tapestry of island life and are at the heart of many communities, the island is just a small community. The whole island is a community, and given the sudden, should I say, deterioration in the need or the availability of affordable housing, or the more dire need that's ramping up. So we do need to work, I think, as collaboratively as possible as an island. So this amendment, I think, is sensible. It makes it more. I think it makes does make the system a little bit fairer, sir, but maintains some of the important parish links. Thank you.
Deputy Labby.
Thank you, sir. All of the constables I spoke to in relation to this on my tour of the parishes last year were entirely happy. I asked them specifically if they were happy to work with the Gateway, and they are entirely, all of them, to a man and woman, were entirely happy to do so. And certainly the Gateway officers would be very happy to work with the constables too. And so there isn't two lists anymore, because all of those that once were on the constable's list on his desk have been encouraged to go on the Gateway, and people will be accessing these properties through the Gateway. So it's one list, which is the Gateway, and on that there are various things that need to be taken into consideration. For instance, the length of time that somebody has been waiting on the Gateway list, location preferences, and all sorts of other things. So that all has to be taken into account by the officers who are scrupulous, do a difficult job, and do it very, very fairly. I don't see the need for this, because I think allocations should be made on the basis of need and appropriateness and fairness, not on filling quotas or percentages. So I didn't vote for it last time. The Deputy Gardner won't be surprised to say, for me to say that I won't be voting for it this time. Family circumstances, of course, have to be taken into account. There are lots of complex needs and requirements occasionally, and that has to come into play. So it's a difficult job that the Gateway officers are doing day in, day out, and I pay tribute to them. They do it very well. It is tough, and they will certainly be very, very happy to work with the parishes and the constables on the allocation of these particular sites. So. And the Minister for Housing and Communities will be there to adjudicate if they have a dispute or would like some advice, or they need another pair of eyes, or a decision to be made. Then I see it as the Minister for Housing and Communities' role to be the arbiter there. But they'll have a formula to work to, and it's broadly along the lines I've been expounding just now. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Dublin.
Sir, excuse me, I have a point of clarification, if I may, if the Minister's prepared to answer. It wasn't clear to me, sir, when the Minister spoke a moment ago, whether he was telling us that the parish actually has no say at the moment in the allocation of homes to the sites that they are developing. I wonder if the Minister would just clarify that for me, please, sir.
Well, I've been working on the assumption that the Commons would be able to get involved with allocation if that's what they wished. I think it's very important that the constable does play a role if they want to.
Can I just check if you wanted to speak, Constable Fine? Deputy Dewbley.
Thank you, sir. I hope that members will support this because I think it is very much a compromise, which I think is there for what I'm feeling is a minority of parishes that want to retain this idea of parish links in their housing developments. Because it sounds like most are going through the gateway, and so in the Constable of St. Wands outlined how they're allocating homes based on need. I think he said the majority on need. And I have found this debate very interesting. I wasn't expecting a debate on this actually because it was accepted, but it's very interesting to me from a sociological point of view because it centres around our feelings of belonging, and which of course are of central importance to us as humans. And if we view a parish in isolation, then the logic behind the parish links argument and of having parish links as a designation for housing, it does make some superficial sense. So I grew up in a parish, my family are there, I feel attached to the people and the place, I feel I belong there, I want to stay there, and we may feel on that level that it is logical. But parishes don't exist in isolation. They're not floating around in the ether in isolation. As humans and as members of individual parishes, we're all connected to one another. And we have a responsibility to be mindful of and care for not just those who are like us and in this context who are close to us in terms of proximity, but also those humans who don't necessarily share all of our own characteristics. And that includes place of birth or childhood home. And the fact is, sir, at least a third of our island live in the urban parish of St Helier, and many more in our suburban parishes, one of which is St Saviour, of course. But aren't we all linked to all of our parishes in the island, sir? And how do we define such links? Because I actually feel linked in some way or another to every single parish on this island, and I make an effort to spend time in every single parish. I don't live out my days in a single parish. The woodlands of St Martin's, the beaches of St Wands, and I could go on. So I find that the concept of parish links, I find it problematic, and I hope that constables will continue to take increasing use of the gateway and not go up to this 50% that Deputy Gardner is proposing as a maximum that can be allocated. I hope it will be much lower, and that the constables, when they are creating these fantastic developments, and they're also beautiful, aren't they? And I can understand why people want to live there. I hope that the constables will go by need, and that will take priority over some of the other ideas that we have discussed today.
Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? Constable St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. I feel inclined to respond to Deputy Dewblay because the way I read the report from Deputy Gardner, and I didn't support her initial proposition when she brought it. Can't remember when it was last year or even 3 years ago. I see this that she has taken, or she takes now a different view, and she recognises the value of the parish link, which Deputy Dewblay seemed to me a moment ago to say that she doesn't recognise the strong parish links that many people feel. I think if we look at the paragraph that Deputy Gardner refers to, the parish priority of 50%, she does say that she recognises that parish links are important to many, but she also goes on to say, of course, as did Senator Farnan and Deputy Dewblay, the island is, of course, only 9 by 5, and that we need to ensure that we work together to grow as an inclusive and integrated society. So I have no problem in supporting this amendment from Deputy Gardner today, because I want to acknowledge the fact that, in my view, she has changed her opinion and recognises very much the value of the parish community, the 12 parishes, albeit that they do, of course, make up the much larger island-wide community that is the island of Jersey, where we all live, and as Deputy Dublé mentioned, we all have links to every parish because we travel through those parishes. We make use of the amenities within those other parishes, but the fundamental is the link that people feel very strongly often to the parish in which they live. So I'm very pleased to support this and to acknowledge what I think is a change of view from Deputy Gardner, and one that is for the better, sir. Thank you.
So I'm not sure if this is a point of clarification, but the Constable mentioned that I had said I didn't feel parish links were important. That's not something that was part of my speech.
In that case, I retract those words, sir.
Thank you very much. Does any other member wish to speak on the amendment? Deputy Lahegro.
Thank you, sir. It's interesting, actually, because I did vote for the last one of 100%, and I'll give you a little bit of history. I was actually born in St John's, and then I moved west to St Wands, then to St Peter's, and I've now gone east to St Martin's. Now, that would give me 4 opportunities. So this, for me, is about equality as much as anything. That would give me 4 opportunities to have links to certain parishes or certain areas. And so I had just a discussion with one of my colleagues recently, in the last couple of moments, and they've only lived in one location. And that location is a location that doesn't actually provide any parish link accommodation, which is St Helier, of course. And as a district representative, I'm mindful of equality across our islands. And some speakers have mentioned, actually, that is a good fact, isn't it, that it's a very small island. So for me, it is about equality. And I was pleased to note that we are going, and everybody is going through the gateway now, because it has to be about equality, but it also has to be about need. Now, of all of the places that I've lived, although I've been in St Martin's the longest, my connection probably was more within St Peter's, because actually more of my family are there now, but also because I actually did things within the parish. And I have to confess, I probably haven't done as many things with St Martin's as I have or had done with St Peter's. And so, oddly, I've lived in St Martin's longer, but I probably have got more connection with St Peter. But I just wanted to make a point that I think it's right. Deputy Gardner brought back 50-50 because I think she believed that, you know, the constables and the parishes felt that they wanted to keep those connections. And I fully can appreciate that because, obviously, as I said, that's been part of my life, all of my life. So I can fully understand that. But I will be supporting Deputy Gardner because I do also feel that we do need to look about equality across the board. Thank you.
Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir, and I'll be very brief, but follow in Deputy Lahegro. I spent the first 26 years of my life living in St Clement's, and I still have strong links to that parish, and those were the links that I put down in my early years, people I played with, people I went to school with, people I went to the parish school with. And then I moved to St Martin's, and I recognised those same links in young people in St Martin's, and the links that go on throughout their lives. So I think that parish links are really important, and I'm a compromiser. I ummed about this when I first read it, but I have to say Deputy Tadyer is the one that swung me over the line. His statistical and analysis of the numbers and the way he described what might happen to the 50% that isn't allocated as a parish priority has persuaded me that I'm going to support this. I think it's a good compromise, and I'm going to vote in favour. Thank you, sir.
Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? If not, I will call on Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And first of all, I would like to thank for all members who contributed to this debate. Also would like to thank members who expressed their support hope I will not forget, first of all, the Minister who accepted my amendment, Deputy and Constable of St. One, Constable of St. Lawrence, St. Martin, St. Peter, Deputy Gida, Deputy Lahagarad, Deputy Duble, Deputy Tadia, Deputy Southern, and apologies, and Senator Farham, and I'll try to address comments and questions. First of all, I will start with a question from Deputy of St. Mary and also Deputy Wickenden. If you look at the proposition about 55, with no such restriction applying to people aged 55 and over, it means if the sheltered house and downsize development will be within the parishes, it's open to the parishes not to have any restriction. It can be 100% and can be 0%. I think it is important to understand it's no restriction. It doesn't mean 100% will go to the parish or 0% will go to the parish. For me, over 55, it's to assist to downsize and to free bigger houses, larger properties in the parish for the families that need bigger properties. So I hope the 55 was clarified and I answered the question. I cannot agree more with Constable of St. Peter. I wish it wasn't necessary. I wish it would be 100%. At the same time, I do recognize and I recognize importance, and I work a lot around community and inclusivity as one of my core values in my work. It's to listen and try to find the bridges between views. And this is the reason that I brought this particular amendment. And as Deputy Southern said, when we look at it, is it ideal? It's not ideal probably for either side. It depends where you are standing between 0 to 100. But if it's way forward, yes, it is. It is way forward, especially for my parishioners in St. Helier that don't have, like Deputy Hagarad said, any housing development. And maybe third generation of the Procurer's family would like to move to and live in the house and not in the flat. And they are on housing gateway. Deputy Tadia raised question, and thank you for Deputy Gida. He did answer, and also Constable of St. Juan. If you remember my first proposition, which I brought as my actually first proposition to the state 3 years ago, one of the paragraphs addressed this, that everyone should go through the getaway anyway, and from there allocation will be according to the need. And it will be some movements, but at the end of the day, it's when the people registered, what's the size and what's the need. So I can trust that the getaway would know how to manage it fairly. And Senator Farham said it's about collaborative approach. It is opening more, and in Deputy Duble raised about connection or e-connection to the parish because we feel connection. I think one of the reasons that I brought the original proposition, I'm not sure if you remember this example, is design area. When you have a bus stop on the road that belongs to Trinity, the moment that you step down from the bus to the bus stop, you're in St. Helier, and 3 minutes, not a walk down the road, you're in St. John. And it's very difficult who live in that area. Actually difficult for me when I was canvassing to understand when the house of St. John finished, where the Trinity finished, and where the St. Helier starts. We had a couple discussions with Deputy of Trinity, if it's his house, if it's the Trinity house or in St. Helier. So very close island. And basically, based on our common strategic plan, we need to ensure every qualified resident will be given equal opportunity to access affordable housing schemes to all qualified in Jersey. It's about us as an assembly saying one island, one community approach, and I'm be grateful if we'll get this compromise and make it clear not more than 50% will be allocated and 50% will be available to anyone else on this island. And I ask for that poll.
Thank you very much. The appel has been called for, so I ask members to return to their seats. Those members online, vote in the chat. For those members in the chamber, I ask the greffier to open the voting. All members have had an opportunity to cast their votes. I ask the greffier to close the voting. The amendment has been adopted, 38 votes per, 2 votes contra.
Those voting contra in the chamber, the corner tab of St Mary, and in the chat, the Constable of St Brelard.
Thank you very much. We now move on to the 91st Amendment, which is to be proposed by the Minister for the Environment. And I will ask the greffier to prepare to read the amendment. Deputy Morrell, do you have a...
So it's just to say, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be leaving now
Thank
for a
you
few
very much.
non-return after lunch. Thank you.
Sir?
Yes?
Can I just make a declaration of interest in relation to one of the sites? I believe I've got the right piece of land, in the one in St Mary's on B Roman numeral 3, Field MY 563, I believe belongs to an organisation of which I'm a trustee. Therefore, I don't think, and I have not had any discussions in any point on the matter, but I don't think it's appropriate for me, therefore, to take part in the vote on the overall amendment, because I think it will be one vote. However, sir, I'm presuming any amendments which do not affect that piece of land, I'm obviously not conflicted on, therefore can take part in any debates on the amendments to this amendment.
Thank you very much. If I can ask the greffier to read the amendments.
After the words, the draft island plan 2022 to 25, insert the words, except that. A, the following should be removed from the list of sites to be zoned for affordable homes in policy H5, provision of affordable homes. 1, fields H1186A, H1189, H1198, La Grande Route de Saint-Jean, St Helier. 2, fields MN389 and MN390, La Rue de la Haye, St Martin. 3, fields S729, New York Lane, St Saviour. B, the following should be inserted within the list of sites to be zoned for affordable homes in policy H5, provision of affordable homes. 1, H1248, Highview Lane, St Helier. 2, J1109, La Grande Route de Saint-Jean, St John. 3, MY563, La Route de la Rosière and La Route de la Vallée, St Mary. 4, O622 and O623, La Rue de la Croûte, St Juan. 5, O785, La Rue de Cosnay, St Juan, and also amend the cartographic error on the proposals map to ensure the site remains in the green zone, consistent with all other H5 sites. 6, P558, La Verte Rue, St Peter, to be brought forward as part of a comprehensive scheme with P559 and P632. 7, P559, La Route de Manoir, St Peter, to be brought forward as part of a comprehensive scheme with P558 and P632. 8 S341 Bel Air Lane, St Saviour. C. In Appendix 1, affordable housing site assessments from page 325 of the draft Bridging Island Plan. 1. The assessments for those sites listed in paragraph A should be removed. And 2. Initial assessments as set out in Appendix 1 to the amendment of the Minister for the Environment for those sites listed in paragraph B should be added. And D. The draft Bridging Island Plan proposals map Part A planning zones should be amended to reflect the adoption of paragraph A and B.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Probably for the public the most significant amendment in our debates. One where there's the most public interest because it concerns individual sites that all of us are familiar with. And the changes, the decisions made will have long-term effects on those areas, parts of the island. And so my amendment deals with policy H5. As you remember, just to summarise the process, I won't go into detail that we arrived at that. When we went to the draft plan preparation, we invited all landowners and the public to submit forward sites for consideration for consideration in the island plan. We invited persons with an interest in land to put that forward. I can't remember exactly how many were, but there were several hundred. They went through a process of technical officer evaluation under a series of different categories, which all of those were detailed in the working documents that were submitted all to the planning inquiry. Because what one had, my recollection is that out of those several hundred came a top, I think from memory, apologise, it's not exactly right, 16 sites that were proposed in the draft plan for inclusion as affordable homes. Those homes were, most of them I think were involved with, there were lots of processes that went on in the parishes. That was not a prescriptive process. The view I took is there should be open consultation between the planning officers and the parish communities. And I think from what I know is that the way that was done varied considerably according to the preferences of the parishes. Some parishes set up what you might call unofficial committees or what to guide them. Others were led by the Conitar, others done in different ways. I think there was one which was rather more formalised than that, which did surprise me, and I have to say I wasn't aware of until very late that I didn't know that previously predecessor Minister for the Environment, I think it was former Senator Cohen, had signed a ministerial order setting up a committee in St John. I didn't know that was the case. I'm sure the Constable St John will refer to that in his when he speaks about those fields. But nonetheless, I think the point was that I sought to achieve, make sure that during the process of the plan formation, there was that dialogue. So what we arrived at was understood. Obviously, I took the view that it wasn't for me to be prescriptive about how we ensured that the post-parish communities were fully engaged. That I felt was a matter for the constables. But what we did do is we had a series of road shows where planning officers went to the parishes and put details of the fields under consideration on display. We used all of the modern methods as well through the internet, as well as those in-person workshops, all of which where we ended up arriving at the list of the sites that went to the Bridging Island Plan. At the Bridging Island Plan, I should have mentioned that en route to the Bridging Island Plan inquiry, a number of amendments submitted amendments, both to take out sites that were in that list, which I think colloquially is known as the Plan A list, and to include new ones. And so I did, when I went to the planning inquiry, because I recognise that there were some sites which we may not be approved by the states, and recognising that there was a target of the number of homes that we needed to identify, is that I asked the officers to go through the next tranche under the first 16 and look at a number of sites as to whether or not I should ask the inspector what his opinion on those, which I did, and I provided a list of those sites. And in fact, those, of course, we are in a position now, of course, that the inspector considered those and gave me recommendations on both. He gave me recommendations, or gave us recommendations, that on list A, his opinions, their opinions, and on list B, which were the maybes, or reserve sites, if you like, whether or not he thought they were suitable or not. And those are that came back going into the details of when and where and whatever, but when I got the inspector's report, I then had to, I thought it was the right thing to do, well, in fact, more than the right thing, it needed to be done. I needed to correct or adjust the policy H5 if you want to look at that, page 193 in the draft plan. These are sites for affordable homes. I needed to adjust that to bring it into line with the inspector's conclusions and the decisions that I wanted to bring forward to the states. And so I put them in this 91st amendment. Obviously, since lodging the amendment, there are new things that have happened in that we've got now I think we've got 5 amendments that have been lodged since to vary that. But obviously, we'll deal with those amendments one by one after we deal with the generality. What I'm trying to do here is talk through the generality. The amendment, I suppose, that I've 91st is basically 2 provisions, point A and point B. And the first point, dealing with part A of the provision, it lists sites that were proposed in the Plan A list, where I decided that they should be removed. And I'll go through those. I need to do this in detail, I'm afraid. I'll try and make sure I get it right. The first was fields 1186, 1189, 1198, the Grand Route de Chanchon, St Helier. This I am seeking to remove that from the list as a result of the recommendation of the planning inspectors, which is principally because of recognition of their importance for the remaining organic dairy industry. That, I think, before I can tell members that that was not an easy issue. We went to considerable lengths to try and get evidence on the basis of the agricultural value. And I think in the end, in the absence of that evidence, I went forward in the draft plan. But clearly, evidence has came to light in the planning inquiry. I remember it. I think that the chairman of the Jersey Milk Marketing Board spoke on the subject, and indeed I think the Constable St Saviour has made, with her knowledge of that industry too, has felt that out. I should actually point out that I have had representations from the landowners saying that they disagree with that evidence, but nonetheless I'm maintaining what I said, is that I am maintaining the proposition to remove it from the list, those 3 fields, and thereby that it does have the effect of accepting the Amendment 1 that Deputy Hegerer had lodged during the first period anyway. The second pair of fields which are sought to be withdrawn from the Plan A list are St Martin's 389 and St Martin's 39, La Rue de la Haye, St Martin, which is south of the village green. And there, I think this was, again, have to say, it was difficult to be sure of what the landowner's position of this, and I think it became uncertain. And I think, therefore, we decided that given the uncertainty or the unwillingness of the landowner, because there's no point in having a plan if the plan is not achievable, that should be that should be removed. And the third one is Fields S729 New York Lane, St Saviour, which members will of course know is the glass house, where I think the owner of there had other aspirations for that site, and although it came forward as part of the call for sites for affordable housing, the owner changed his mind, and therefore I've proposing that removed. So those are the ones that I removed. I suppose in all there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields on points A, Romans 1, 2, and 3. That deals with the removals. Then I spoke about the Plan B list. This is one, just to remember, where they weren't proposed for zoning in the original plan, but they were always high up, if not pretty well at the top, of the evaluation list in the paperwork we published of all sites way back in April 2020. And I asked the inspector for an opinion on those sites. And in fact, here you are, you can see them. Romans 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Rather than speak about them now, I think members can see them in the proposition. There's in all there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fields which I have put forward for inclusion. I think I need to, obviously the purpose of doing that is to meet the overall housing supply. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, amendments from members is absolutely fully entitled to do, and I expect it would happen. Again, I praise members for their engagement in this. There's only a short period of time, but we did have amendments which we would need to deal with once I finish speaking. There are 3 amendments to remove 3 of those sites, which are H1248, which is Highview Lane, St Helier, which from my sort of my own simple mind is at the site up at Le Poucquelet at the back of the old Channel TV that used to be there. So that's that one. So there is a proposed an amendment to take that out, an amendment from a member which we will need to debate. And I should be saying on that one, as I've indicated, I will not be supporting that removal. Then we have amendments for fields 0622, 623, St One. That is, in fact, I should have said the Highfield site is 40 units, and the 0622, 0633, St One is 77 units. It's a very large site. It's on the west of the village of St One, and it would be contiguous to the village area. And so I am not supporting the removal of that. Of course, we have an amendment on that specifically site to debate. Then I think before I refer to the other one, on the other amendment we have, I think I would like to deal with the 2. We've had amendments to put 2 new ones in, additional ones. These were ones which were not on my Plan A or Plan B. They are J229 St John, which is a small site for 11 units, and J236 St John, which is 13 units. And I always mix these up. One of those is north next to the L'Auberge de North, which is like a wooded area, and the other one is to the west of the village in the cemetery area, or next to it. But they're quite small sites. And those are to add them in. And at the moment, I think I will, and then I am not able to support J229. That's the one to the north next to the L'Auberge. So we'll be discussing that, those amendments. We'll be discussing those. Now I've left the S341 St Saviour to last because I think it is the Constable of St Saviour has put in an amendment, which we need to discuss, to remove that site. And I've had to, in my note and preparation, and members will see in the running order, I've indicated that I will not be accepting that. Having considered further the position on S341 St Saviour, that site is, I think, Delorraine Road. I'm getting a nod from the Deputy, thank you. It's not exactly my area, but I think it is in quite a congested area. I've decided to not to oppose the removal of that site. So obviously when we debate the Connaught Harbour St Saviour's amendment, I will be supporting it. But of course that is losing housing units. And here I had not intended to support J236 St John. The one from the Constable of St John who wanted that added in. I had not supported, I think I indicated I didn't support that, but I am now proposing to accept that. So effectively, if you like, swapping the two out. If we've got a constable in one case who doesn't want a site, and we've got a constable in another case who does, that seems to be a very pragmatic, common sense solution to those amendments, S341 and J236. I don't know if I'm getting mutterings from down the end, but I'm afraid these are the sort of judgments that we make. This is not a perfect thing. But in the end, you're the ones, they're all ones that I've spoken of, where you'll be voting individually on, because we have to vote on those, and you could have the choice. Now, that leaves us, and I'll point this out, there is, of course, your members will have noted, who are very, look the detail, will see under point B, there are a number of sites that I propose to add in point B, which are not subject to any particular amendments.
Sorry, Minister, the Constable of St One has is it a point of clarification you wish to request?
May just be a problem with my hearing, but could the Minister just clarify which sites in St John's he's accepting? Is it both of them, J229 and J236, or just one of them? I'm sorry, but the sound quality from his side of the chamber is not that good, or maybe my hearing isn't that good, but I didn't catch the site numbers.
Sorry, sir. I did get complaints from the Deputy Purnell in front of me that I was speaking too loud the other day, so I tried to modify it a bit. So I apologise. I'll try and raise my voice a bit. But I'm trying to get this right. I will not be supporting J229. I will be supporting J236.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have you finished your... your microphone is off.
Sorry, sir. This is quite a lot. I do apologise for the length of this, but I think it's important I introduce this part of the debate properly. Members will note that there is a number of sites that I haven't spoken of because they are not. We're not going to. There's no amendments listed for this item for it, so I want to talk about these. In my opinion, those sites that are not opposed at the moment by amendment, although of course members are free to vote against them in some way, but there's no amendment. There's no specific amendment. I think they're very straightforward. First of all, route number 0785 La Rue de Connaught. This is right out in Les Lawns area. It is not. This was a site originally zoned in the 2011 Island Plan. It is a derelict glasshouse site, and it is disappointing that in the last 10 years of the plan, it still hasn't got developed. I think there's to-ins and fro-ins of that, which I'm not party to. But it didn't feel. But it really, realistically, it was right out by St George's Estate. It's well out there. It doesn't really score very well in the sustainability criteria, frankly. Very isolated site. And of course, having lived out that area for a while myself, I know that I don't think they even have a Sunday bus service. It is pretty isolated. And when your kids go to school in town, they have to get up for the bus at about 6 o'clock in the morning in the dark or something in order to be able to get to school. So it's very, very isolated and there are no pavements. But anyway, nonetheless, so it isn't well related to the centre of St Wands. Constable will know this, I'm sure. But anyway, but we were told that apparently at the examination in public, the landowner came forward and said, I'm doing this, and indicated his intention. It's been zoned for 10 years, I'm getting on with it and I'm doing it. So and the planning inspector, on that basis, that I should not, that I should make sure it goes back in. And so I've accepted the planning inspector's recommendation. But of course, what we will do, and this may not be music to the ears of the developer, is that we will put, this time, we will put a requirement for bus and road improvements as part of the terms of that, because it absolutely needs such an arrangement. Of course, therefore, and also the other sort of benefit, because it's a glasshouse site, acknowledging one of the effects of the Senator's failed amendment, as it were, it will reduce the pressure on high-quality agricultural land, because it's already a glasshouse. That's an example of where there are exceptions made for glasshouses. We've done numerous over the years. Here's the second one. So I can see the support from St Clement. Okay, well, that'll be for the next minister, I'm sure. Now, the next one is MY 563, La Rue de la Rosière and La Rue de la Vallée St Mary. I have to be honest, is that I am not a great expert on St Mary, so I can't take exactly where it is. But the constable has put it forward. But I know of the two sites because he put forward two sites. And one of the sites, MY463, I think that's not, again, we're going to, can't remember if we got an amendment on that, I'll have to check that in a minute. But anyway, so MY563 is on the list of item B for inclusion. The constable wants it, so on MY563, I'm going to be supporting that, as I said I would. The other site that the constable proposes, MY463, in the opinion of the officers, and I support their view, would seriously harm the rural character of St Mary and too large. The site MY563, which I am prepared to accept, and when I say happy, I'll come to that in a minute, is supported by the inspectors, and it will help local need at St Mary and introduce more younger families to the parish. So that's why it receives that support. The JFU it has to be said. The JFU informed me it is a significant loss to agriculture. I think, while I have got I don't know if members have seen it, I did ask to be circulated the notes from the Jersey Farmers Union that listed their order of buy. I hope members have all got that. If you haven't, I'm sure the officers will put it in the chat. But I tell you that, so it is regretted. But this is an issue, and I think one of the members spoke about planning balance. And I think, there's no perfect decisions in planning. Anybody who do it, you just have to find out which side of the line it is and whether you can live it. And, it's not a perfect world, and what we have to do in the system is make the best judgments we can. Now, I'm getting near the end of the list.
Minister, the Constable of St Mary wishes to intervene. Are you prepared to accept that? Your microphone needs to go on.
So I'd just like to correct the Minister. It's not field 463, it's 493. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Can I have a minute to check that, please? Well, sir, my note at the moment says it's 463, but I will get that checked, and hopefully that I'll get the note through if I can come back before the end of my speech, if that's okay, sir. I'm afraid this is a complex technical business, and sometimes errors do occur, but I can be very clear that I'm proposing to accept MY563 and not the other one. But in the end, it's members' decisions, not mine. Sorry, I think my screen's timed out, so I can't see the answer when it comes. Right, that's better. No, nobody's telling me. Perhaps I'll ask my assistant minister if he could perhaps check check for me through the chat what the correct number is. The Deputy of St Mary has challenged my reference to MY463 St Mary, and he says it should be MY493. Beg your pardon, sir? Ah, right, I've seen this now. I'm sorry, I was wading through. The reason why I was hesitant is that I was working my way through steadily Amendment 91 and the amendments to it. And then what I'm trying to cover now is anything that's covered by Amendment 91 and amendments to it. I've just been alerted to the fact that to come, once we get through this one, is a series of individual amendments, of which the 50th amendment is on MY493 St Mary, and I'm grateful for members sorting that out, but that will come later. That was the one that I gave advance heads up that I would not be supporting.
Thank you, Minister. There's a point of order from Deputy Wickenden. Deputy.
So I just want to ask, if the amendment says that we're going to be amending we're going to be accepting, or the Minister is accepting 563, and that's not the case. We do go on the wording of the amendment, and could we end up inadvertently amending the wrong field? So.
I don't think so. I think everyone is agreed on MY563. I think we're talking about a different field, which the Constable put forward and the Minister has rejected, but it's not, as I was actually going to mention to the Minister, it's not actually a subject of this amendment. So we don't perhaps need to get so bogged down.
So I realise that. So I
moment.
realise, if I may, that I've slipped up there. In fact, I should be disciplining myself rather better.
But thank you, Deputy Wickenden.
Thank you. So I know that I can assure Deputy Wickenden there's absolutely no way we are going to make a mistake on the fields that actually make it into the final list. But we've got a journey to go yet. I'm getting near to the end of the list. Then we come to fields P558 and 559. 558 is La Vertu, St Peter, and 559 is La Route de Manoir. Now, these are additions because there is a field in Route de Manoir, or in my recommended list day sites. And so that is why that I've put these forward, but this has to be clearly, explicitly stated. They should only go forward as long as they are brought forward as part of a comprehensive scheme of development with fields 559 and 632. And the reason that's because if these two fields, 558 and 559 St Peter, are added, there is going to be a lot of new development in the St Peter's village. And there's absolutely clear that we need to provide for community space within that. And a community open space to serve St Peter's village, what one could call colloquially a village green. And that can be, and that's important to ensure that we don't end up with a wall-to-wall housing development in St Peter's village if these two ends are added in. And so, in practical terms, that I believe these sites are in different ownerships. They will need to be done together and brought together in some way, and thankfully that won't be my task, it'll be for those that procure development after, if these fields are included, but I think it's a clear condition that that is the case, and that's why it is in the proposition B. And then the last one is, I've been told that I can't mention, yes I can mention because this is in the proposition, J1109, Le Grand Route de St John. I put this one in the Sion area. The initial reaction from the Constable of St John was one of disappointment. I am not aware at the moment whether there is an objection. The site is in agricultural use, and the JFEU say it will be a significant loss to agriculture. But it is believed that if we have the site is good enough size to put really good landscape buffers and space for the community again in that site, which can be done through the mechanics of a planning obligation agreement that every developer on every one of these sites that go ahead into zoning will need to enter into to do this. So, sir, I think that is my closing remarks. I think, as I said, this amendment is arguably the most important in the debate. If it's rejected, we will lose all of the sites, and then I think the Assembly will be in a position what then to do. And I certainly do not want to be party to making decisions on sites that I do not think are good sites and should not be designated. And we would also, I think, fail to deliver homes for islanders. And so so I wanted to give you a very clear focus of what this amendment's about. And then, of course, we'll be dealing with individual amendments now. So I believe on both, I think, taking out, I think the two amendments to take out sites, I think, and others, we'll deal with them as we come to them. So thank you, sir. Thank you. I make the amendment.
Is the amendment seconded? Thank you. There are, as the Minister mentioned, a number of amendments to this amendment, and the first to be taken is the first amendment to be proposed by Deputy Lahegre, and I ask the Deputy to read the amendments.
Delete the words 1, H1248, Highview Lane, St Helier, and renumber the remaining items accordingly.
Deputy Lahegre.
Thank you, sir. Field 148 has previously been considered for housing, and there is obviously a significant history in relation to this site. It's at the back of basically what used to be the Channel Television site, and access to this site is actually on a very small road. It is anticipated, of course, that some negotiation or agreement would actually make the access through where Signal 1 is of Le Poucoulet and through that car park. But that's obviously not the case at present, and it is through a very small road. It is concerning from the perspective that this is a very built-up area already. You have significant traffic congestion in Le Poucoulet, with the new college site, with the other site that's been developed in relation to what was previously a nursing home for St Helier, or within St Helier. So there's a significant concern already. You have schools in this area, and you have, and myself, like other parish deputies, have had to deal with concerns of parishioners walking their children to school along those roads. And this is on a daily basis, sir, both afternoon and morning. Obviously, at the present time, we also have the new hospital site at Overdale, and both Queen's Road as well as Le Poucoulet is also very, very busy. And so therefore, building more homes at Le Poucoulet will only create more traffic on Queen's Road. And of course, as I said, with the new potential hospital site at Overdale. So what we're doing is we're compounding more and more traffic problems. And I don't believe that we've actually dealt with those matters at all in relation to this particular area. And that's why it is reassuring that although it's more based on the fact that it was a dairy herd use of the land at Montalabe, it was concerning for the residents of that area about the traffic and compounding traffic in this area. In recent times, as part of the planning committee, I visited the old site at Le Poucoulet because there was an application for a change of use, which obviously I didn't participate in, because this is my district. But that application was about a change of use. And Infrastructure, Housing and Environment were against, I'll repeat that, against the development or the change of use of that site because, and I'll read this, object to the proposal which could see significant additional vehicle trips generated throughout the day, affecting the operation of Poor Junction with Queen's Road, the operation of the bus service, and also the safe passage of vulnerable road using, including school children. So again, I find it very, very strange, sir, that not 6 months ago we're saying this is not suitable to have a change of use within a site that's already used for commercial purposes, but this was going to be it was going to be used for a purpose and it was going to make more traffic, and the department said, no, we're not supportive of this. And so I do ask the question how this has come to that. And as I said, I'm very happy that we've thankfully saved the site across the road so that that dairy farmer continue producing organic milk. But we are here again, as I said, looking at another site for St Helier. And of course, the other concern is if we actually build on this site, then where does it stop? Because if you look on your maps, there are then further green sites edging east of that particular site. I, like some of my constable colleagues, went out on the bus last Friday morning, and I must say that I was exceptionally thankful to the department and the officers that took us to the sites. And we were able to see this green site being used for agriculture. So it is a site that is used for agriculture. Make no bones about it, it's not green land that's not being used for any significant period of time. It is actively being used at present. So from that perspective, and the perspective that if you look at what we've been provided from the Jersey Farmers Union, this is of significant loss to agriculture. It's not one of the sites, and they, like I, identify we are going to have to rezone some green sites. But I think we need to be careful about what green sites we do rezone. But as also, I do believe that we need to consider residents of St Helier who do take the burden of development within their parish. But we do need to make sure that we're not creeping further and further into their green spaces. And part of the walking around this area is down to Valley de Vaux and the National Trust woodlands. And I think we do need to be careful, because if we keep creeping, then we will end up that we've got a whole thing all the way to Goree. So I think we do need to be careful. So I'll be interested to what other members have to say in relation to this, but I do say that it is a concern that we are looking at prime land which has already been identified as traffic chaos by the people who are part of our infrastructure. Thank you, sir.
Is the amendment seconded?
Yes.
Does any member wish to speak on the amendments? Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. And I'll be exceptionally brief because Deputy Lehegre has actually basically said everything I was going to say. All I can say is that this area is becoming overcrowded. Certainly the College Gardens area is a very narrow funnel leading up to Le Poucalet, and with high-rise buildings on both sides. The traffic volumes are too great, and I agree with what she said 100%. This site is not suitable. It's going to create further problems down the line, and I hope members will reject it. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And I'll be also very brief. Deputy Lahagarat covered most of the points, and I have to declare, I live in that area, and I experience what been presented. I don't want to call NIMBY because I do believe we need developments in different areas. At the same time, I have been approached by residents and I have engagement with residents, and they clearly stated it's the urban sprawl into the countryside. We have St. Helier countryside. We have St. Helier green spaces. Not many of them left. If you look at the map, or if you come for a walk into Valley de Vaux, you have your lands, it's one of them that lead into Valley de Vaux. It's only 3 fields left to get some green space and press before you entering the valley. Regarding the traffic, St. Helier Parish invested that we'll have 2 pavements leading to schools. Children going to Devon School, walking to Devon School. And as Deputy Lahagarat mentioned, use of change the space in ITV was disputed by own government department because of the traffic. And believe me, if I leave my home, and I live at Manor Park, 8:10, I will be standing for a while to turn to La Poucale because we'll have a traffic from almost the run from Manor Park to turn to the Queen's Road. If only 5 minutes later or half an hour later, I might be able to do. The traffic on La Poucale in the morning and after the schools is already very, very heavy. Apart from this, all residents in that area, they have already enough parking, they have already use of the space. Please, we, as St. Helier, and let's go back to St. Helier, if you look how many units will be delivered in St. Helier over the next 5 years, we'll probably touch around 4,000. We just heard about the waterfront, 1,000, we'll have Horizon, we will have Mayfair Hotel, we have Brewery Side, we'll have Randall's, we'll have Lime Development, we'll have next to Rouge Bouillon area just open. St. Helier does contribute to the housing on the island. And my request to the members to consider, leave us some green space. Not much, but wherever we have green space, just leave it to St. Helier. Thank you.
Clarification, please, sir.
Deputy Simwan. Deputy, your microphone is...
Yes, I apologise. Could I ask the Deputy, could you tell us whether the change of use application was granted or was refused?
The change of use application, I think that finally was granted, and I would like to clarify what was the change of use. It's to have a gym. To have a gym. And what the applicant needed to present, it's about increase of the traffic. And applicants managed to present that there is lots of use basically of the community. As you can imagine, it's up the hill. We would like to build a neighborhood, and lots of people of the area would walk and use the gym and not drive. So when they presented about the, if I understand correct, the amount of cars via people who would be using from the community, it's gone. But if we would go towards the cars, it definitely wouldn't go there. I hope it helped.
Thank you very much. I have nobody else to speak at the moment, but it's also 1:45.
I request the adjournment, please.
Adjournment is called for. I sense a standing vote. Thank you very much. The Assembly stands adjourned until 2:15 this afternoon.